Hello there, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dice Scum Live. This is Adam,
I'm Imsit.
and today we're actually going to show off not one, not two, but three random fan games. Because when you get into the RPG space, you'll usually find either homebrew or people who actually try to make their own games. Not for commercial purposes, because they'd have gotten sued 9 ways to hell and back, but just because they really like the property. And oh boy, I got some corkers for you today. Maybe I don't know. I've made a point not to look at any of them. They all were in my slop folder, which does not necessarily mean they're terrible. It just means
We
they're
will gi-
just weird games that I had.
we will give a hint. They're technically all 90s properties.
Oh, so the first one's actually a '90s cartoon. I wasn't quite sure about that one.
Late 80s, early 90s, because uh it's about the adventures of gummy bears,
So
which ran for 6 seasons,
it ran for
85 to
six.
91.
It really ran for 6 seasons, huh?
Yes. I don't know why, but it did.
I don't know how it got that much popular. I remember. This was when Eisner's early career, when he actually made the Disney Channel into a powerhouse. I think that might have been why. Because like when Eisner took over in the tumult of Disney in the early mid 1980s, he completely revamped a lot of stuff. Was a lot more willing to experiment, and this is one of the products. I'm still actually surprised this thing lasted for more than 2 seasons. Honestly, uh, I'm actually
I,
it,
ac-
this means
Actually,
it has
here's the
more
reason.
seasons
Yeah.
than Transformers, which makes me laugh.
It's probably because uh the number of episodes was about the same as a modern television show.
Oh, so like
Uh,
8.
8, 8, 10, 9, 13, and the last one had 17.
That's actually still more episodes than I thought they ever made.
The last one was the highest. It's all over the place for the rest.
So if you're wondering, I assume not many of you have maybe heard of this one, or maybe you have. The concept of the gummy bears one is it's a sort of medieval setting where these magical bears drink this juice that lets them bounce around like fucking ping pong balls, and they have to stop this Farquaad guy from stealing their juice.
So the Smurfs, in a way?
Kind of. I don't remember this show too well since I was like a literal fetus when this came out. And it opens with a still from, I think, an animation background or like some art sketch. This was made for Viral Games, some type of game jam, I think. And it opens up with a character sheet, which is a very bold choice, but then again, this is literally 10 pages long, so I'm not surprised.
It's not like we need the lore on this.
Well, you probably need to know a little bit, but not much. So let's see. It just goes right into it, creating a character, scores. All gummies have 4 basic scores that define their character: hide, bounce, courage, and cleverness. I like that bounce is legitimately one of your skills because that's what they did in the show.
Like acrobatics in Elder Scrolls. It's
Uh,
just jumping.
it's more like Rubber Band Man if you've ever seen Static Shock, where he just bounces around like a tennis ball. They kind of work like Spring Heel Jack. But yeah, it's the 4 stats that you need, and you can assign a 6, 8, 10, or 12 to a particular score, though each number may only be used once. So you have to always use an array. Your score determines the size of die you roll for actions using it. So if your courage score is an 8, you roll a d8 when using courage. If your bounce is 12, you roll a d12. The
Okay, yeah,
adversary or
this had to have been made by a game jam because who the fuck's gonna own all those dice right away?
they have to have at least used a dice pool like this, yeah.
Oh, also, Dark Sun, I believe you're referring
Oh
to
no, we
Care
covered the
Bears?
Care Bears RPG. Care Bears the Staring. We actually did an entire series on that one. And yes, Care Bears the Staring is actually relatively decently designed. There's only one part where it breaks down, and it is the Care Bear Stairs part, where you have to play War. You know, the card game. You have to play an entire session of War as your finale, as your defeating them with kindness ability.
Kind of ironic.
So the adversary or obstacle opposing you has a number of adversary points or AP. To overcome the obstacle of the adversary, you have to roll a total equal to or greater than the stated AP. If the AP requires 8, you have to be at least 8. Talents. You choose 3 talents for your characters. Whatever you are called on to use your bounce, hide, courage, or cleverness scores, you may roll a second die of the same size if you have a suitable talent. For example, a character with cleverness of 10 and the pilot talent could roll 2d10 to operate a flying machine. This actually kind of reminds me of Ninja Burger. Do you think that's where the DM came up with the idea from? Or was it just a case of reinventing the wheel?
You're probably reinventing the wheel just because you're assigning only one number to a score, and that corresponds with a dice. So there's no level up mechanics or anything like that.
You also start the game with 2 luck. You can spend a point of luck to automatically make your hide, bounce, courage, or cleverness roll its maximum. So if your bounce score is 12 and you spend a point of luck, you're automatically getting a 12. If you run out of luck, you are taken over. This can mean a lot of things depending on the story, but your character is no longer under your control. Possible reasons for being taken over include being captured, being ensorcelled, which I don't know if that's a word, but we're going to roll with it, or being
It
knocked
is.
unconscious. Oh, it is? Oh,
It
yeah,
is.
it's just one of those ones I never use. Or being knocked unconscious. Either way, the GM is in charge of your character for the duration of the next scene in which they appear. Why is this real? Hell if I know. Hell if I know, Squirrel Killer. Oh, if you think this one's bad, I can't wait for you to see the second one. That one's going to be magical for you. So here's all the talents you can get. You could be an artist, you could be brave, be a doctor, you could be fast, a fighter, blah blah blah. These are all of your things. Strong.
So
You have the strength of a human.
I did see Lorekeeper. You know a lot about the ancient gummies. So that implies there's a history.
Oh,
I,
oh, did they do the same plot line of like Thundercats where they're like the last of their race? I really don't remember this one too good.
I, either that or all I'm thinking of is ancient giant gummy bears just ruling the land like the giants of Norse myth.
Well, kinda, but they'd be drawn like this Disney style where they're not actually made of chewy fruit nougat.
No, no, they were. This is why they've degenerated to become more of a flesh form now.
And drinking the gummy juice is what allows them to retain some of their candy powers.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, magic's a thing. Gummies with the magician talent may have one simple spell, for example, lighting a candle that they are able to cast without any components or effort, as long as they concentrate. Others require and component, like a sheet of paper or a magic ring. The first casting of these spells is treated as a non-story obstacle with an AP determined by the GM. Subsequent castings of the same spell during the story requires the magician to spend a point of luck each time the spell is recast. Why? Can't you just get more reagents? Anyway, the point of
Uh,
luck is lost without any effect, other than letting the magician cast the spell more than once.
so hold on. So they say you can light a candle,
Yeah,
uh,
it's like the
as like
equivalent
a
of a
simple spell.
cantrip.
Okay, but for how long? How big of a candle are we talking about? How far away?
Don't think about it. It's a cartoon.
Well,
Don't think
no,
about it.
I am because I want to break the game.
Don't think about it. If your
Wait,
magical ability is to summon a needle, you could just summon a needle and just like fling it at someone's eye. Yeah,
can I? I'm lighting a candle, right? It,
that's just an
just
example.
I
Yeah.
just need. I know, but I just need heat. Can I use the sun? Just create a sun?
Now you're not thinking hardcore enough. Can I use my light candle ability to burn down the castle, possibly taking everyone with it? The theme song slapped. I'm not surprised.
It
Yeah, I
was it
think
was an animated
I
show back
vaguely
then.
remember because here's a fun thing you should always do every now and again. Just go to YouTube and like look up random 90s or 80s cartoon intros, and some of them are pretty wild. I think it's because that's when everyone was on cocaine and they actually had to try or be replaced for not doing well enough. You have failed me for the last time, sort of thing. It's kind of funny that this show is probably better than what's coming out this year. Anyway, flaws. Speaking of that, flaws. There are aspects of your character that are expected to work against you. However, flaws give you the opportunity to earn more luck, so it might be your advantage to actually make your flaws come into play. And some of the flaws include absent-minded, acrophobic, where you get afraid to do things because of height. But basically, you have to play to your weaknesses to get your luck.
Oh, hold on. I see that you can have the talent of strong, but you can also then have the flaw of weak.
I assume you can't use both. Like a normal GM would probably slap you for even trying to say that.
Well, you could say you're
No,
strong, but you skip
no,
leg day,
no,
so you're weak that way.
no, no. Oh yeah, and apparently Disney did translate it. Yeah, yeah. This was to give you an idea. This was back during the Michael Eisner period, where yes, the guy didn't know how to run a theme park worth of shit, but he did know how to run a media franchise. And this is the guy who managed to turn the Disney Channel into a very relevant property and actually turned around Disney's dire financial straits. Fun fact, Disney in the 1980s almost was ripped apart and disassembled by corporate raiders.
Oh,
Uh,
I wish.
Oh, unironically, they came very close to being bought by a guy who, when his plan was simple, simply sell off their real estate, dismantle the parks so that they can be divested into smaller parks throughout the world for money, and just kind of retain whatever properties they felt like holding on to.
No, that actually probably could have worked just to make smaller parks, but then maybe have like a theme to each of them. So once you get the
Oh no,
Disney
he wasn't
adults,
thinking that
they
far
have
ahead.
to
He
go
was
out.
just like, okay, here's Splash Mountain. I'm willing to sell it for like $10 million. Here's
Oh,
all of
oh, that
Splash
way.
Mountain.
Oh, now that's even dumber than what Disney's doing now.
Oh, where they're getting rid of all of their iconic rides and not replacing them with anything.
I just meant like literally slashing up the various parks is just incredibly stupid.
There's a lot of idiocy involving Disney. It takes genuine talent to be able to create the equivalent of two Heaven's Gate movies in the same year and not go bankrupt.
You see, they didn't kill a horse in that one, so.
Well, technically, if you think about it, they made I think 5 flops in the span of a whole year.
No, no. Fun fact: the reason why we have in movies, they say at the end no animals were harmed in the making of this picture. Yeah, it's because in Heaven's Gate they blew up a horse.
Oh, I thought it was in reference to Ben-Hur, which actually had quite a few animals and humans drown.
No, no, I believe it is this film. It also is what killed the United Artists and
Well,
the
yeah,
brought
it
back the studio system.
it is what killed United Artists solely because they spent so much of their money into it. It is a miracle. Make a character as we read. It's short. Okay, I'll make up a character in a bit. We have to understand what gummy berry juice is. So gummy berry juice. Every gummy starts the story with a bottle of it. Drinking the full bottle raises your bounce score to 20 for the next 3 actions. Drinking half a bottle raises it to 20, but it only lasts for the next action. It also gives you 2 luck, but you have to use this luck before the juice wears off. A human or ogre who drinks it develops incredible super strength instead. A human can lift or throw boulders as if they were weightless. This lasts until the next action. The entire bottle must be drunk at once or nothing happens. Humans and ogres can only benefit from gummy berry juice once per day. Further bottles don't do anything. Drinking more than one bottle's worth at a time it has detrimental effects no matter who drinks it. What are those detrimental effects? Who the hell knows? Actually, yeah, I'll invent a character. Let's see. We're gonna call them. What should we call this gummy bear? I'm gonna call him Dave. I'm gonna call this gummy bear Dave, spelled
Interesting Haribo.
Daev. You know, just the wrongest way possible. Dave. Let's see. Dave. What's their talents? You think?
Um,
I got it.
I was,
Okay. Hmm?
let's see. I was thinking pilot just because you somehow know how to operate boats and flying machines even though you've never seen one before.
Oh yeah. You just intrinsically know that just because you can. Like it don't matter. None of this matters. It makes no sense.
You know what? Let's do magician so we can make some fun power.
All right. So the dark arts. Also, just because naturalist, because that way he knows how to get high.
Uh,
So we got a blunt smoking, spliff token pilot who can cast the dark arts.
well then if that's the case, absent-minded has to be his flaw.
How many do we get? Up to 3. So that's one flaw. Let's go with one more because I think they have to know one more. Uh,
Um, know-it-all?
no. I'm going to go with. I am going to go with cranky, and that's why they're always high. The moment they're not high, they just turn into the angriest person to ever live.
So
Uh,
he's the inventor of the Snickers.
yeah, basically they need a Snickers every second of their existence. Their hide is their worst stat. I would say from their courage would probably be middling. Cleverness is I don't know. They're second to last, and then bounce just because they're on drugs. They're on drugs.
Yeah.
They have 2 luck. The description. Imagine a gummy bear dressed like dressed like a hungover college student going to their first Renaissance fair. And their color is smoky gray, but with just a hint of brown on their cheeks. And their eyes are always bloodshot red, which is why they wear fancy spectacles that do nothing.
I can picture this. Oh God.
He rides in on the gyrocopter going, I don't know what I'm doing, man. Then he just like unfocuses his eyes and he shoots a lightning bolt from his fingers. There we go. There's the
I
character.
just became a I just became a god.
Can you taste the rainbow? I can taste the rainbow all night long.
Uh, well, next we need items. It says items are permanent and expendable. Permanent raise a character score by 2 whenever the GM rules that the item is useful. Uh, so somehow a rope makes it easier for your bounce.
Uh, well, yeah, because you use the rope to help others climb and yourself.
A permanent item might be a slingshot, a spyglass, an eldritch tome about the ancient gummies,
Which, as you know, are giant monsters made out of juicy candy.
spawn of Iglathum,
The, the,
a
the, the
great.
humans used to
Uh,
the humans used to hunt them because it would allow them to gain the legendary power of type 3 diabetes.
one day we will rise from their adipose. We will be formless and formed again.
Yeah, the problem is we already did that with Care Bears the Staring, where we made them agents of Slanesh.
I mean, In this case, no, they're literally trying to force people to drink the juice and eat gummies so that they can take over their bodies or take, I guess, infect their bodies and then basically
So
spawn
they're the
from them.
stuff. They're the stuff from the film, The Stuff.
Stuff. Yes.
I need to know what's going on more about the gummies. Gummy bear. And at one point, like you see, like an ogre get ripped apart as a giant gummy bear rips out of his flesh. Both here and everywhere. Why the pink one?
Expendable.
What pink one?
The expendable items
Oh, you mean
basically use
the gummy bears? Their whole thing is like emotions and shit, like happiness, joy, uh, dealing with grief, loss, the intensity of feeling. It's the ability to open up the heart. That is Slanesh to a T, at its least corrupt. Like,
um but
unironically, it makes the most sense.
yeah. So expendable items are used to make automatic successes. Also, permanent items, if you lose it, you receive one luck.
Because that sometimes happens, you just lose stuff. Also, if you're wondering, you
Um,
can only carry one permanent item, and if you're wondering what Dave's is, it is his magical weed bag. Only it's not called weed because this is a PG cartoon for children, so it's actually just known as his spinach bag or herb bag.
I said his stuff.
Yeah, he just calls it his stuff. And because they can't show it what it is, it just looks like Popeye's spinach. But you know what it is. You know what it is. As for some temporary items he has, I don't know. He has random scribbles of the Necronomicon on hand, so he can do the dark arts. Hell if I know. They burn up
The
whenever he
end of
uses
the
them, though.
the end of the world is coming soon. We will all be pawns of the dark gods.
No, no. At one point, he pulls out a script. He puts on his specs, but he's so high he screws up. Clatu Bradnicto accidentally summons zombies. So here's some of
So
the
I
problems you can run into.
realized
Hmm?
I realized that should be a character in a Lovecraft like game is a complete dunce. It somehow becomes just a terrifying cultist.
Ernest goes to Innsmouth. Come on, don't you want to see an Ernest P. Worrell movie where he goes to Innsmouth?
You know what I mean, Vern? We're all the spawn of Dagon now. Uh, so yeah, the adversaries. Um, apparently you put them to points of 100 or 200,
I guess it's like
depending
a
on.
I guess it's like a video game, which I think is one of the worst ways you could design a tabletop game, personally.
Well, it's because of the different values. So fighting an ogre is 10. Fighting two, though, not 20, it's 12.
That's a little weird.
You'd really weird diminishing returns.
Oh, I get. Oh, no, no. Here's why its returns are not 20. Remember, AP equals the number you have to beat, and the highest that you can get is a 12,
Uh,
unless you have stuff like
oh,
gummy bear juice or like other items. So two
oh, I
ogres is
see.
actually pretty darn challenging.
Wait. Um, and s- sneaking pat. They seem to be just quick challenges that add up to the story.
Yeah, basically the idea is my thinking is it's supposed to be episodic, so like you start with either 100 or 200 depending on how long the episode is going to take, and then you just kind of throw it in whenever you feel like it. Kind of feel this is interesting. It really feels kind of seat of the pants scenario. Like you make it up as you go along.
I mean, if they're trying to be like a 22-minute size sort of a, like if this was supposed to be an episode of like 22 minutes, Uh, I think that'd be fair.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you're kind of doing it, and it's supposed to be like an episodic thing where you don't actually have an extended campaign arc because it's not supposed to be for that.
Um, but then there are non-story obstacles, such as that aren't related to main story, such as stealing a dessert. Um, but that may not be subtracted from the AP based on the GM's
Because you're
discretion.
just intentionally making it harder for yourself. So you're home. After the players have created their gummies, it's time to decide where they live. To begin, every player should write down a brief one-sentence description of the home they have in mind. It could be a hollow tree in the middle of a forest, a foreboding mountain, uncharted island, some other location. Most important thing about your home is most humans don't know about it, so try to imagine a place that doesn't have a lot of traffic and is inconspicuous. Gummy bears are supposed to be
Oh,
secret.
okay, the back rooms.
No, no, no. I got a better location. Your local neighborhood Sears or Kmart or mall. The gummy bears at the strip mall. No one will go to this dead mall. Don't worry.
Uh,
We will save what you'll probably be interested in most in, Jim, for last. That's a threefer.
yeah. Um, so then neighbors. Neighbors are the characters who live fairly close to the gummies, no more than 2 or 3 days walk. The main villain is one neighbor, but other neighbors can be friendly, hostile, or even unaware. Uh,
Well, yeah, because the gummy bears. The whole thing is like the Gargamel wannabe guy is the evil guy who wants their juice to make his. I think I remember the plot now. He figured out about the gummies a while ago, and he's trying to get their juice because it gives them power, and he wants to use it to conquer the neighboring kingdom. Because how dare you? I'm evil, mwahaha. I think that's what I
yeah,
remembered.
yeah, go to the next page.
Yeah, there he is. There's that Farquad looking motherfucker.
That knows. Is his name Sir Goldstein?
He's actually Cyrano de Bergerac.
I'm blanking on that reference.
Well-known play. Basically, an ugly-looking dude gives another guy tips on how to woo women by his own poetry and writings. Guy takes the credit. Serrano gets pissed because he falls in love with the girl that he's talking to.
Is it Shakespeare or someone else?
Someone else actually. The newest modern equivalent of Serrano de Bergerac is actually the glorious film The Society of Magical Negroes, which has the same plotline.
Holy shit! You're right.
Although I think that's completely unintentional, which makes it even funnier. But yeah, when you
Um,
create a villain, this is the GM's job. You want to make something kind of neat. The creatures who work for a villain are called minions. Most villains that have at least a few dozen. Some villains don't have them.
oh, well, considering we're going with the Lovecraft theme, I'm gonna go with Sir Arthur Jeremy. Instead of finding out, spoiler, that his ancestor is a great white ape, is instead a gummy.
I mean, if I'm gonna make my own villain who would deal with Dave, I'm going to go with. Let me invent the name. Uh, in kinder times he was the legendary paladin known as Lord Straightedge, who has gone on a mission to cleanse the world of all sin and vice. But on his divine mission, he became too obsessed with black and white morality and has become the villain that he claims to fight. The fuck, the magical what? Oh yeah, Dark Side. Did you know that they're making a new hit film called The Society of Magical Negroes? It is a glorious film. That is essentially Cyrano de Bergerac, but with but done poorly. And with a very poorly thought out secret world where all of the magic of the magical Negroes, where all of it can go away the moment the stiff as a board actor decides to not do his job. Because apparently, one guy not doing his job can cause all of magic to die.
Yeah, apparently magic does not like miscegenation.
Then you find out that this whole magical society was founded by Merlin, who just was very racist.
I mean, I had the idea of it. This is mage. It actually was originally a meaningful thing created by a technocrat that realized, oh, all of our enlightened societies in the 1920s are fucking racist. So we're gonna have to create a separate one for black people because,
Separate but
well,
equal. Oh
no,
God.
more so, literally consensus does not allow it. Like,
You know,
and
the sad
then,
thing is for the old World of Darkness, I think that actually would work as like a set piece. Like
and
if you
then,
did if you did a 1920s gaslight period,
oh yeah, actually, no, that's yeah.
like if you had say the Harlem 1920s setting or like just New York, World of Darkness New York 1920s. It's after the Victorian age books, but like before some of the other ones. I think you could actually do a mage book in that time and it would work pretty well.
Darkson, and he wants that gummy bear booty. He's a warrior.
He kind of, I guess he does. I think he
More,
just
imp-
wants the juice to get strong.
it's more important than drinking water.
Evil scores. Every villain has at least one score, like the gummies. However, instead of hide, bounce, courage, or cleverness, evil scores are unique to that villain. For example, the leader of the bird-like Carpies has a flying score of 10. Whenever he opposes the gummies by flying, he can roll a d10 and use the result as extra AP. Main villains get 3 evil scores. Recurring villains get 2. Minor villains only have 1, but it's always 10. And some examples of their scores include magic, technology, huge, invisible, or warlord. The main villain also has an evil score of 12, so yeah, basically it's supposed to kind of be like the show. And hey, we're actually already done. It's a really short book. Honestly, I think what they came up with is short, relatively playable. It's something you can kind of scramble together and you can do a little thing out of it. I don't have any problems with it. What about you?
Not, neither do I. I mean, I probably would never play it, but
I'd say
it,
playable. It's not amazing, but it does its
yeah,
job. Okay, I will warn you up front, everyone. The next book is not very well formatted. So if
it
you
was made in, I believe. Actually, I have no idea when it was made.
2001,
Maybe.
maybe. All I can
That's
tell
when
you is
people are
that
copyrighted.
avert thine eyes, my children, because it's going to make them bleed. Welcome to the Master of Orion RPG, a 24-hour RPG. Gotta love that JPEG artifacting. Mm,
And
mm-mm-mm.
the fact that this was clearly written in Microsoft Word and not formatted.
I mean, no. It's more formatted than Empire of Satanis, which again is a big fucking indictment against Derek Deshaw. Big fucking indictment against him. So I don't know
Oh
if the
god, no, that's
copyright is
crazy.
specifically to Masters of Orion 3 because I think that's the version that came out at this point, or if that's when the book was written. Well, you need drugs. No, it's just kind of ugly. It's just very basic looking. To give you an idea, there's a table of contents, but he never even finished the table of contents. Like page 2, history, page 4, character creation, page 4, concept, and then it goes to page X, which is a bit of a big whoopsies. History. Long ago, in a past so distant that beings who have themselves passed into legend remembered it only as a myth, there was a civilization called Center One. Center One was a nexus of commerce and culture whose denizens commanded technologies that would seem magical to the peoples of today. At some
Well,
point. Hmm?
I'm gonna rant. Okay, first of um, that first paragraph. That was only 2 sentences.
Yeah?
The second sentence, did they just tab after the period?
Yes, they did.
God.
And yet, this is still better formatted than Empire Satanis, despite its flaws.
Actually, I think Empire Satanis is edited at least somewhat.
No, I've looked at, I remember it pretty clearly being worse than this book. At some point in the shadowy past, the primary star of Center 1 system became unstable and some scientists predicted it would go nova. The Society's leaders scoffed at this and branded anyone who subscribed to Nova theory as delusional or dissident. I don't remember any of this plotline for Master of Orion.
I never played it, so I have no idea what's going on.
I played at least the first. I've played at least the first couple of games. So the plot's pretty simple. Because it's a 4x game like Civilization. It has almost no plot. You are one of the galaxy's several sapient races that have actually begun to carve out a star empire. In terms of lore, there are two big pieces. I remember this might be from the third game, which was notoriously bad. I don't remember. I just know that in the second game there are these race of atrocities known as the Antarans, and the Antarans are a hyper advanced civilization that, if I recall correctly, was banished to a pocket dimension because of what they did. There was a gigantic war between them and what became known as the Orion system. Uh, the Orions were legitimately the most advanced society to the galaxy ever had, to the point where it basically ruled the galaxy in a spanning civilization. It's kind of similar to it's similar to the Protheans in a way. You know how they always found all those gates in Mass Effect and shit like that.
Or the Forerunners,
Yeah, it's a
Halo,
similar
or the old
concept.
ones,
It's a similar
Warhammer.
concept, and what happened was they just kind of vanish. They die out. No one knows exactly why. They just died out a long time ago. By the time of the modern period, Orion is a basically a near dead world. It is orbiting a red dwarf. Any civilized society on there has long been dead. We're talking millions of years, and all that is left are the fragments of the Orion's technology, including
Oh,
the great guardian of the system. Which the best way to describe it is it's similar to Star Trek's Doomsday weapon, an extremely powerful automaton that survived the ages, and it's goddamn scary when you run into it in the game. You're gonna, you can hypothetically beat it early on, but you
I
need
feel
mid
like
to yeah.
Stellaris took inspiration from this. But I know that there are some plots in that game that revolve around that kind of stuff.
Sci-fi settings suffer frequently from being so fucking dry of precursors. In this case, it's just the only one, and the only reason it's there is because there is a law. It's essentially an unspoken law. He who masters the planet of Orion controls the galaxy because they have the control over basically technology you're not going to be able to recreate. The ones who came closest canonically in the games are there's these I forget what the name of the race is. We'll actually see them actually. Also, you want me to
So
actually make this more interesting? You got it. I was just reading it exactly as how he wrote it. So, okay, let's go.
actually,
Hmm?
they do talk about Antares and Orions and
Well, yeah,
Orion
that's part
Civil
of the lore.
War. Um,
So what happened
God,
is the Center One system, it boasted a stable wormhole that provided the only way in or out of the system using STL drives. Hundreds of ships would leave Center One through the wormhole to become known as the Travelers. fewer than 20 tribes would survive this journey, and they would become the forebears. I don't like this plot line. I don't like this part at all, but they become the core of what the playable races are. Not a fan of that personally. The surviving tribes prospered or failed to largely due to their choices of where to settle. There are two tribes, though, that made excellent choices. One of them would settle in the Orion star system, and because of the abundance of habitable and mineral rich planets in the region, they rapidly grew. The other one found the Antares system. When hyperspace began to get disrupted, though, uh, they eventually started to fight. These we're talking war in heaven level destruction. To give you an idea, the Orions had to banish them to a pocket dimension. That's how dangerous the Antarans are.
Oh, wait. They only owned a system, right?
No, no, no. By the end of this war, they were wiped to nearly what they had left. They were the two largest figures in the galaxy. And by the end of it, only one was still standing, because the other had to be banished to a pocket dimension. And to give you an idea on how scary the Antarans are, in the game they come from, Master of Orion 2, Battle of the Antarans, a single raider ship, which is their equivalent of a corvette, the smallest class of vessel in the game, will one-shot your battleship.
Oh yeah, no. I guarantee you, the endgame crises in Stellaris took direct rip off from this.
Almost certainly. The ancient alien precursor technology doesn't really matter. It's more the legacy of settling Orion, because they're the ones that colonize most of the galaxy.
And I mean, sometimes it could be done good, like for instance, the first three Halo
It's
games.
literally not a big deal in the game. In the game itself, your goal is to essentially make sure your race prospers through the galaxy, ideally by becoming master of the galaxy, which can be either as an emperor or as the head of as the head of the unified galactic democracy.
Only those two options.
I mean, you could wipe all the other races out. That's an option. In the first game, it was to the. In the first game, you basically had no quarter. In Master of Orion 1, it was you basically had to wipe them out. In Master of Orion 2, you could actually convert them, mainly by assimilating them into your culture, which actually meant that you could have actual societies where they would work together, which I think was a nice improvement. I actually am a really big fan of Master of Orion 2. I think it did the process quite well. It also has a really good tech tree. Also, don't
Hmm.
worry, your tech tree, you're not reinventing the wheel. Not really. I mean, you kind of are, but you're not using their tech. It's literally your scientific efforts.
I mean, have we in the past actually ever done that? Like, I mean, I guess technically we are now with
Farming in general was
rockets.
founded in different ways, yeah.
Oh no, I was thinking more like rockets, where we've lost that technology and now we're trying to rebuild it.
Yeah. So they decide to then go into sort of a weird oh, I'm not a fan of this weird plot line. Oh, that's kind of gross. I don't like how they're doing this. Because
Which
I
one?
I recall this is not how the plot actually went. So they decided to kind of rip, I think, from Warhammer Fantasy, because they decided to have something called the Pax Humanica, which was never in the games.
Wait, fantasy or you mean
The Imperium
40K?
of Man. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, because fantasy, there never was that.
I'm not a fan of that. Oh yeah, they wrote the reveal and it was terrible. Master of Orion 3, it also has a lot of worse mechanics. Like, it's just generally a worse game than the second game. So yeah, the Orion Civil War ended at the establishment of the Pax Humanica, which never actually fucking happened except maybe in the third game. But no one counts the third game because it's bad. It's a terrible game.
How so?
Worse mechanics than two. The plot reveal, the decision to emphasize its story was probably the worst decision they could have made, and I think they actually restricted some of the races you could play.
Oh,
It had less than two. The mechanics were worse than two. and the story that they inserted into it's similar to Myth 3. If you've ever played, there's a series of games called Myth: The Fallen Lords. Then there's Myth 2: Soul Blighter. Then there is Myth 3, which I believe was called Age of the Wolf. That game was not very good either. Although that one's mainly due to kind of how buggy it is. It is both unstable and the AI is garbage. It also unfortunately reveals it handles the plot that's hinted in the first game especially, but also a bit of the second really terribly.
Uh, Meanwhile, the interns had not been able within their bubble of
No, they're not.
non-space
They've been fuming and raging that they were banished.
in something that doesn't have space.
The best way to describe them is they're basically trapped in a pocket dimension and they were allowed to advance on their own time.
Why were they not killed?
Um, a combination of technology and just dumb luck, honestly.
Chuck the pocket universe into a black hole or something.
The Orions were basically wiped out in the war.
And
If
who
they
put
if
them
they
in
had
the...
the option, they would have, but they didn't. Like you don't understand how fucked they were by the end of it. There's a reason
Well,
they faded into legend.
alright. Well, so they mastered dimensional science, uh,
That's it.
and
That's how the
they,
Antarans eventually come back. Yes.
yeah, they reunited their former subject races. The Pax Humanica ended when other races tired of human rule. Orion Senate fractures, the Second Orion Civil War.
Not a fan.
Um,
I think this is stuff from the third game, which is terrible.
the, the six races that openly oppose the Antarans: the Alkari, the Bulrathi, Darloks,
Hmm.
Illyrians, Nolums,
You'll
and
like the Nolums
Rashan.
because they're you'll know you'll know why when you see them.
They're golems, aren't they?
They are hilariously like Watto, so
Oh
very
God, no.
very Jewish coded, and their main specialty is their advanced understanding of currency. They are the money making race,
How big are the noses?
impressively so.
What the fuck?
They even have little yarmulkes, if I remember right.
What the fuck?
If I remember right, we'll see what they look like.
Alright, so,
They are
um,
also one of the easier races to play again because the money makes it easy mode. You can do a lot more research. You can build more units. Their weakness is they're actually physically frail because they come from a low grav world.
oh,
Basically, they're not very good fighters because their planet's gravity has maybe 50% of what Earth has.
oh,
So they can't really handle high grav worlds.
yeah, they're fucked.
So character creation. The first step in playing a role-playing game is making a character. In Master of Orion, this process has 6 steps. Choose your concept, choose your race, determine traits, purchase skills, choose backgrounds, and purchase equipment. I would have gone with species because they are different. What did Myth 3 pull as a reveal? Oh, you remember the head from the first game, Jim? So in the first game, there's this talking head that basically gives them hope to fight the fallen lords, the army of death, literally. Yeah, they go into its plot line. It also kind of goes more into what the leveler as a concept is.
So they reveal
I assume most of you
the
don't know what
weird
that.
stuff.
So in mythology, there's this entity known as the leveler who basically seeks to essentially wipe the face off of society when it gets too advanced. Every
Oh,
every
the
hero
Reapers.
every hero the age before comes back as the monster that they put down essentially.
Oh, that's actually an interesting idea.
The man who defeated the first wave of undead, I think, came back as the creator of some of the worst undead. In the first game, the guy you're fighting, Baylor, this horrifying, powerful champion bedecked in armor and who can murder anything with a touch and who is a dread necromancer himself. In the previous age was Connacht, the man who wiped the world of the greatest threat that ever walked its earth. the Mercuridia, a race of flesh-eating demons that almost wiped out humanity. And the guy who summoned the Mercuridia in a previous age was known as the Great Sage of Peace, who basically stopped an army of shades, which are powerful necromantic wizards, if I remember right, from essentially doing a horrible ritual. Basically,
That
every
actually,
hero of a previous age comes back as that age's ending villain, who basically nearly wipes out humanity, and each iteration of the leveler's form gets stronger.
that's actually a neat subversion of the hero's journey.
And Connacht knew this. In the third game, they actually show that he knew that this was likely to happen, so the whole point was him trying to break the cycle. He sadly fails, and unironically, well, no, he both sadly fails, but also unironically kind of succeeds. Because his lieutenant, who fell with him, that's the other tragedy. The hero's companions in life become their generals of their dark army traditionally in death. So the Fallen Lords in the first game were Connacht's companions when he banished the Mercuridia and sealed the Trow, which were these iron giants, in their tombs. And they came back. Hilariously, Soulblighter coming back and trying to forcibly end the world might have actually broken the leveler, because he came back way before he should have. Also, the person who was supposed to become the leveler wasn't dead yet, because the
So,
next person would have been Alaric, which you deal with a bit in the game.
this is a hilarious idea of a sci-fi setting where God is real, and on every planet with sentient life, it's just shows some people who are all Jews down to following the same rules.
That reminds me of the weird octopi juice we came up with as a shit post in a setting.
That
That'd be funny.
that that actually would be. But then the question is, where's the Holy Land?
No, no. Each and every one of them has their own holy land because they are the fragment of the cosmic garden.
Cosmic Jew?
No, it's the cosmic garden. Like they are reflections of the true Garden of Eden. Like each and every
That'd
holy
be
land is a fragment of the original whole.
a fun idea. But so moving on to I guess the different species.
Yeah, let's go into. So there's cybernetics, which are cyanoids. Oh god, this is from the third game. I don't remember these at all. I don't care for them. Advantages plus 10, endurance plus 10, perception minus 1. We still don't know the system. This is just stuff you do. Difficulty
Mm,
level to all rolls that repair machines. So I don't know
I have
these
I have a
guys at all.
feeling I have a feeling this is probably D&D.
Also, this is some Masters of Orion 3 shit. I remember the Mechlars because they're from the first two games. Mechlars don't just use technology, they are technology. These robotic beings not only have great mechanical aptitude, they can survive under conditions that would quickly kill any organic life form. And right here, right then and here, you know what I can tell you? The guy who made this book was full of shit. He got it wrong. The Mechlars were the cybernetic race, the cyborg race. They're similar to the Daleks, essentially, where there's a small core of organic material that is essentially infused into their shells.
Are they as genocidal?
They can be. They're very logical. If their solution to dealing with a problem is to exterminate an entire civilization, they will do it. That is
Then
not
the
their
next
default decision, though.
next are the Etherians
The
or the
Oladi,
Elodi.
these are from the
The
third game.
fuck is that?
These are from the third game.
Is that the master from Fallout 1?
I guess this is actually really unfortunate because this was written for the third game in mind, and I think that actually kind of ruins this one for me.
I'm assuming it's because it had 2001 assets.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this at all.
And there's the
Oh yeah,
Geo.
if you're wondering, Daleks from Doctor Who, there's a small component of them that are still organic because their whole thing is they cyberneticized. Because of this, they also kind of emphasize their worst traits. Similar to hilariously, I think that a fun fact about this is, unironically, you can say the Necrons ripped this off.
Oh no, the Necrons are they're not organic at all.
Well, yeah, but they still wanted to extirpate and exterminate all other life.
Well, differently. It's not because they're superior. It's because those Necrons are just basically now kill robots.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a
Well,
subset of them.
that's because they spliced the Daleks with the Cybermen.
Oh God, you remind me how fucking confusing Doctor Who shit can be. Moving on then,
Yeah.
Geodics.
Oh, geodics. Hey, silicoids. These are the easy mode race. The way silicoids worked in the original strategy game, they did not give a shit about the environmental components of their planet. If it's an arid world, a Gaian world, a airless nuclear wasteland, they don't care. They don't need to breathe. They just need energy to consume. So they can settle whatever the world they want. In the first game, this actually made them the biggest pain in the ass to deal with early on because they would grow really fast. Well, in terms of planets owned, their weakness is they don't populate fast because they're made of rock.
Ah, yeah, I can see that.
They're
Being
silicon
very
life form. They also in the first game were incapable of speaking to others. They were seen as monstrous. Uh,
So next
yeah.
up are the humans. Humanoids. The first one are the Discount Asari,
Nope.
the
These came before the
Ilarians.
Asari. The Ilarians came way before the Asari, and they are in the
Well,
first two
I
games.
say yeah, I say discount because they're not all female. I'm assuming,
No, they're just
but
ruled
they're
by
blue
women.
skin. Um,
They used to be probably one of the more. I mean, they go into Masters of Orion 3, but they used to actually have more of an empire, but they went through a bit of a disaster before then. Also, again, pointing out that the Asari ripped them off because the Illyrians actually, females of their race were mildly psychic. That's why they were in charge because they had the psychic potential. The males do not.
Next up are the Evon.
This is also a third game creation.
Uh, the they look
They look terrible, yeah.
off. Then humans, portrayed by um, Discount Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah.
The
The things with humans is of Orion was kind of because when it was made, the most well-known series that they were working with was Star Trek: The Next Generation. So the human specialty is actually they're among the best diplomats in the galaxy. It is easier for you to make trade deals with other races, compacts and alliances, and mutual beneficial pacts. That is their specialty. Which humans are kind of middle of the road, but because of that, you can get some good advantages out of it. If you want to go for a
uh,
diplomatic victory, humans are one of the easier races to do it with.
then the Cylons, which are different from the Cylons, because these ones are not robots.
Oh yeah, if you're wondering, Cylons are also from the first two games. They are also easily the most powerful of the races in those games because their specialty is tech research. In the second game, your tech tree was partially limited. Basically, you had to invest in one option or the other. And if you wanted the other technology, you usually either had to steal it from conquering other worlds or espionage. The Cylons were unique in that because they're creative, that allows them to research it all. This also means that the longer the game clicks with them and they're still in the game, the more dangerous they get because they will tech up faster than every other race. If the hardest of the races to beat in Masters of Orion 1 and 2 are the Cylons if you let them get too late. To the point where sometimes you just have to kiss your ass goodbye.
Next ones are the Ichthyotosians.
Oh yeah, Ichthyosians. This is also, I think, a Masters of Orion 3 creation, but these ones don't bother me too much. Oh, now I
Looks like
remember because they're ripoffs of the Trilarians. That's from 2.
The Trilarians, by the way, they look like the prophets from Halo.
Well, remember, these guys came in. Well, actually, that's funny because the Trilarians used to look different. They used to look notably different. Basically, each of these races looked different in each version of Master of Orion. Hey, the Clacons, which is actually from another game series that the Master of Orion guys made. I forget which one it was, but their whole thing is they're a hive mind of unruly insects. They're ant-like, but they also have an attitude. And unironically, the hive mind is the only thing keeping them from being lazy. Basically, imagine an entire race of New Yorkers if they were ant people and very, very prone to argue. And the only thing keeping them together is their hive mind.
How's that different from regular New Yorkers?
Clacons are very much a ride or die. Their specialty is production. They can make the most. They easily can make the most out of an economy, other than the Nolans. The problem is they're also uncreative in the second game, which means they are crippled by their technology. Takiti were invented solely for the third game. I don't really care for them.
They look horrific.
They're not very good.
Like bug-eyed dinosaurs
Yeah.
with mantis
Hey, it's
costumes.
the Darlocks. Oh no, they did this to my boys, the Darlocks. So the Darlocks were
Oh,
shapeshifters.
they're the ripoff of V.
Well, the thing is,
It was
the
not.
original Darlocks, they all were cloaked, and you never actually fully saw what they looked like in the first game. In the second game, they looked vaguely reptilian, and what they would do is they had the ability to mimic other faces, and therefore they were mild shapeshifters. You see, the Darlocks in the game were specialists in spying. The Darlocks were also one of the weakest races in the first two games. Their main benefit is basically you can kind of steal other people's work or rip them apart by forcing revolts on their planets. You have to play the subtle game with them. The negative for them is because they're known for being the spy, an entire species of spies. No one trusts them. You're more likely to get declared war on because they're gonna assume it's you. But yeah, their whole thing is shapeshifting. The Grendarl were invented, I believe, for the. Oh wow, they got rid of the Sakri. Really? Sakra? Really? Oh, there they are. The other two were basically invented for the third game, which I don't really give a shit about. Sorry, guys, I just don't care because the third game's poo.
And there's the Zoiks.
Let's see, the Alkari.
Oh, here the Nolums.
Why the hell don't they have the Alkari images? Because if I remember right, they're the cats.
That might be this. This might be the place where they stopped doing the page count.
Oh, this is where they gave up.
I'm assuming.
That's a shame because okay, so the Alkari are the militarists, if I recall correctly. They're the most warlike of the races, hilariously. The Bulrathi, by the way, they are the ultimate combat race because they grew up on a heavy grav world. Imagine a giant bulldog man who is like 7 feet tall and who can bend a steel girder with their bare hands casually. They are strong. They're not the
And the Nolum.
brightest. They're not the brightest. And yeah, the Nolums. Here you go.
When I say they're traitors, but they also say that they reduce to being peddlers and petty
Your your
criminals.
uh your microphone's causing static.
Better?
No.
All right, hold on.
While that's going on, I will hold off. Oh no, I got the Alkari wrong. It's the Mirshan I was thinking of. Yeah, sorry, my brain forgot the two. I think the Alkari are actually supposed to be like bird. Yeah, they're birds. The Mirshan, the cat-like Mirshan, are the only other major species that's matriarchal. That's the other thing about the Mirshan; they're matriarchal. And on top of that, they're one of the first to, because they're warlike. They have gotten slapped more than once for causing trouble in the galaxy. I am going to wait for Imsit because I think he really wants to read about the Nolums, and I'm gonna have to show what the Nolums look like before we head to the third book. Actually, while he's doing that, let me get it prepared because I really like to show you guys because it's hilarious. Okie dokie.
Hello?
I can hear you, and you sound an order of magnitude better. So I am going to show you the. I want to show you the Nolums from Master of Orion first because I
Get
think you'll find it hilarious. No, don't correct it to Golem.
one thing. I am reading this, and since they were reduced to petty criminals and their clandestine operations, they're not Jews. They're Italians.
Which is funny because they weren't reduced to petty crimes or anything in the original game. Also, they made them look like bulls. More recently, they look a lot more like bulls now, which I don't blame them for going that route. In the third game, I really don't. But I am going to show everyone in the glorious little Discord, which is linked in the description for those of you who are watching along with us. I am going to show you in the Discord what the Nolans look like. And I will also show it to everyone in chat in the live stream in a little second or two. So here is the. Oh, come on, God! I don't feel like no. I don't feel like converting the image.
Actually, no. So imagine Sebulba from episode 1, but purple, and yeah, like Venetian,
Care to
kind of.
compare? Do you like the little yarmulke he has and the nose?
Well, I don't know if it's a yarmulke because I think it's connected to the rest of the outfit.
It kind of looks like one though, doesn't it?
But if not, well, kind of, but it's got like a little cap on top.
I do like the. You are right. He is making Italian hand signs.
I think he actually is Italian.
You can see why they probably edited them though. I just wanted to show the Nolans. It's really goofy. They are a really goofy group of dudes. So with that in mind, let's get back into the book because there's still a little more. I just wanted to show the Nolans because that's kind of their whole thing. So the traits you have, the traits describe the blah blah blah. These are the traits you get. Traits range from 50 to 100 before applying racial modifiers. So this is a base 100 system. This is a D percentile, which is something we only learned about now. Actually, did they? No, they didn't even go into how the mechanics work. It's just like straight up we ball and here you go.
They do later, and actually wrong. It's not D100, it's D30.
What the fuck?
You actually no, it might be D1, but they say use D3 10-sided dice.
Oh god, is it D1000?
Oh God, it might be.
Are we dealing with a D1000 dice system or a D30?
Well, let's trudge through this and hope for the best.
So yeah, there's the stats. Yeah, physical, social, mental. By the way, I'm not a fan of. Oh, it has 9 skill systems. So you have yeah, agility, endurance, and strength, empathy, presence and will, and coordination, intelligence, and perception. There's also 3 meta traits called speed, stamina, and wound, which requires more. Wait, you have to do fucking division? Oh, that's trash. Oh, that's trash. By the way, how do you round up or round down? Hello there, NDR. We're covering Masters of Orion, the RPG. I am currently looking at the trash that is using division when there's the entire possibility you will get stuff that is not divisible by 5.
This guy just take from the how the game calculates things.
No, because it's not an RPG. The game is a 4X strategy game like Civilization.
This screams like they're just taking it from a video game in terms of not cleaning up how the stats are
I think they
completed.
just
It
did they just do it in 25 hours? Is that why? In 24 hours? Is
could
this
be,
like a game they made in one day?
could be.
Skills. Well, the
Um,
traits represent innate abilities. The skills are what you learn. There's novice, trained, and expert. Blah blah blah. You have 20. You have 20 CP. I don't know why it's called CP. What is a CP? I don't know.
can't be command points.
Hell if I know.
Core points.
Let's go with core points. I don't know. So here's you get a bunch of abilities like beam weaponry, computers, crafting, art, dimensional science, dodge, earth. Oh, this filthy motherfucker's just stealing from the tech tree. Oh, you little bastard.
I mean, it makes sense.
Makes sense, but it's still kind of like, ah, really, dude?
I mean, no, I think it would make sense just because, well, if the game has these tech trees and some races are more skilled in one
I
area than
mean,
the
to
other.
be fair, he also added his own stuff. It's just, on the one hand, it's like, really, but on the other hand, it does make sense. Maybe it is character points. I don't know, Jim. As
Okay,
for
yeah, that would make sense.
as for backgrounds, they can cost a variety of character points, except for one, which costs 10. You can get contacts. You can get elder genes. Like, oh, that's terrible. Mm. The character carries certain critical gene sequences that were implanted by the Orions. Orion artifact will respond to them as if they were an Orion.
Oh
Bleh.
God, it's the Reclaimer saga from Halo.
I hate that. That's gross. And then you get flaws. These are basically merits and flaws. I am not a big fan of this. Oh no
Playing
no,
the
it's
game.
fine. No, the other stuff is fine. I just hate the elder genes thing because it seems like this is relying heavily on the third game, which I don't like. I plain don't like it. Task resolution. Task resolution in Master of Orion uses three 10-sided dice. These dice should either be of different color or one of them should be marked in tens. 10, 20, 30, etc. Task resolutions always use percentile roll. The tens die is always the die that is marked in tens or the die of the darker color if neither is marked in 10. The second die is the ones die, and the remainder is the result die. What? Why do you have a result die?
A character wants to do something. The GM first decides if there's a significant chance of failure or if the action will have a significant effect on the plot. The answer is no. No rolls required. If there's a chance of failure and the outcome could have an impact, GM decides what trait is most important.
Yeah,
Um, well, what if it's one or the other?
you just kind of pick.
Oh, oh, it says if the answer to either question is no.
Yeah.
Um, Trait value does not determine the success. Every roll has a difficulty level. Apply that modifier for the appropriate level to the base percent chance, the final success chance for the roll.
If you're
That is
wondering,
roll percentile.
each of the races and skills give you point modifiers, so yeah.
Oh, this is okay. This is why you get you get your hundreds per. Uh, you
It's
roll
similar to
this,
Rifts, but it's less stupid, so you know.
but then you roll your results die.
Yeah.
So it's success, and then what level of success? So 1 through 3 is a marginal result. 4 through 6 is a normal result. 7 to 9 is spectacular, and 10 is critical.
The result just tells you how well you succeeded.
So it means that there's a 33% chance that yes, you succeed, but you did it shittily.
I'm not a fan of that. I really think that should be removed.
That Yeah, that's awful.
I think you should just remove that and just what you do is you count by tens like every other percentile system does.
Or this might be interesting to do where it's what is the degree from your success, or but from the point you needed to succeed on and your result. If it's 1 degree or 1 to 2 degrees, it's a marginal success, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to stat it out. Is it by every 5 or is it by every 10? Most systems use every 10, so you know.
Yeah.
Also, racial modifiers can also affect it. Again, it is different for a Bulrathi to punch down a door than it would be for a Nolan or a Cylon to punch down the door. Because one actually has these things called muscles that they can use.
Hot take: ODST is better than Reach. No, Reach is better. That mouse would be just because, and I played more of the multiplayer of it, but
Also, the way combat works, so the modifiers are not cumulative. So you got close combat, limited visibility, long range combat, visibility 0. If you're wondering, long range combat with weapons, it adds what are called difficulty levels, which are up here in this little table, which is fine.
interesting what they do
After all these
for
apply to. Hmm?
uh, um. So are you still in combat or?
I was wrapping up because I want to get on to the third one, the meat and
Yeah.
potatoes, so to speak.
Oh, one thing to say: the space combat, you don't apply damage to your ship. Instead, you apply to the ship's agility, coordination, perception, or wounds to denote damage to engine, control systems, sensors, or hull, respectively. Which,
Eh,
despite the fact that you then have to roll the results die to determine where it gets hit,
I think
I
that's
do like
okay.
that.
That's fine. That's actually quite nice. And also, some races do have psionics. I did mention that there is the bootleg Asari, or should I say the actual source the Asari probably got their stuff from, the Alarians.
Okay,
Basically, they allow you
telepathy.
some options like clairvoyance, telepathy, and telepathy.
Empathy. What the
We call that empathic resonance, but okay. It basically one's emotions, one's reading the minds. That's fine. And experience basically, player character earns a base reward of 1 character point at the end of each game session. You can reward a second one for exceptional roleplay or completing a difficult section. Rewarding more than 2 is not recommended. And sometimes when a character dies, here's how this works. The retiring character may leave one of their backgrounds as long as it can be ruled as transferred to one piece of equipment to the new character. I don't know what grabbing the brass ring. The character cashes in their adventuring gear and all the favors to purchase in state, retires in style, or Blaze of Glory.
This is just how you end up.
And adversaries, Antarans, very simple. They are the interdimensional monsters that are really goddamn terrifying. Ithkul's from the third game, so I really don't care.
Harvesters. So they're bioweapons.
Yeah. And here's the character sheet, which is very basic, but it does the job. It's not formatted necessarily the best, but that's fine. It does the job. So I don't think I can rate this one as decent either, personally. Although that may be a bit of bias coming from me because it kind of leans hard into Masters of Orion 3, which I don't like. I just straight up don't like that game.
It's like me with the Empire at War mods. If they start referencing the canon, like
Oh,
uh,
not canon. You mean the Disney stuff?
Disney canon, I should have said.
No, just call it Disney. If they start referencing the Disney crap,
Yeah, it's just like eh,
because
maybe some of the
as you know,
vehicles.
Star Wars ended when basically Darth Caedus was taken out.
No, no, it ended with Darth Krut dying.
Yeah, it ended there.
But I like some of the vehicles, that stuff. That's just like I don't want to be reminded of that. I just want to have an actually good Grand Admiral Thrawn and the opportunity to use the Moffrents.
We have trained Admiral Thrawn poorly on purpose to amuse ourselves. A tactical
Seriously,
victory, he says as he loses 80% of his army.
what was the name of the guy who oh, Triaculus. Yes. The Thrawn's Revenge mod, you can play as Triaculus.
Nice. I will say that that's kind of my personal opinion. It is unfinished. I will agree with Squirrel Killer. That's the other biggest thing I have to damn it with. I will say that if this was done in one day, it's perfectly impressive because it's actually decently polished. The biggest fault is I don't think you needed a results die. I think you should have just done the D percentile. And I'm just not a big fan of the decision to include Masters 3. To give you an idea, I had a similar complaint when I actually looked at the Free Worlds Alien RPG. To give you an idea, I recall very clearly as I was reading the Free Worlds Alien RPG, me ranting for I think 20 minutes because because it came out right when Alien Covenant did. And
Oh,
oh god damn it, it kept referencing Alien Covenant and
oh.
Prometheus, and I was very, very angry. I,
I
I
mean, here,
was I was very angry.
can it basically allow you to roleplay as Alien Isolation?
I think they do mention Alien Isolation at least, so that's at least a positive. Also, I will say
No,
that
I,
for
I'm
all of its faults, it's actually a pretty decently constructed game. I'd actually still rate. Well, I'll save my rating for when we cover Free World's Alien RPG because I definitely want to cover that down the road. I also definitely love to torment you with the table spam that is the greatest Aliens RPG of all time, which also comes as a companion with the Colonial Marines Technical Handbook. That's not an RPG book. It's actually a fan book. It was actually like based on the Aliens game, on the Aliens movie, where it goes into details about how the Colonial Marines actually operate, which is a really good read. It's similar to how some of those Star Wars technical manuals, which go into like vehicles and vessels and shit like that.
uh, the
Maybe
good
not
old
as
days.
hard as them, but it's really nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rate this one as a. So the gummy bears one is I think a pretty solid playable. It's just something you bust out if you need something like an everyone is John because you can quickly fill up a character sheet. We took it. We only spent what 2 minutes on making Dave. This book I think needs more before you can actually kind of run it. But I also think because it has a little bit of stuff going for it, like it handles space combat kind of fun. I'd say it's about the same rating, modest playable. It's not
But
something
the
I'd
next one,
personally pull out, but
the next one,
So last but not least, and I think you'll get a hoot out of this one, Jim. And I know I will. Using the old World of Darkness system, Gargoyles, the Vigil.
Gargoyles. What would actually be the better uh, subtitle?
Uh, I don't really know what you do with it. Gargoyles, the Watch, because the whole thing is they're supposed to be guardians. At least that's the arrangement that many of them made.
Different question. I've only seen a bit of it. The main villain guy's name is Xanatos, right?
He's not the main villain. He has his own angle. He has his own scheme. He has his own desires, which sometimes run counter to the gargoyles, but sometimes he actually helps them. He
He
is an
moved them
antag-
to
He is
New
an
York, right?
antagonist that oftentimes has the same desires as they do.
Uh,
Like yes, he opposes them quite a bit, but as the series went on became more of an ally.
why didn't he move all the gargoyles to like Ecuador?
Oh
Because
no, he
that
moved
would
them to
thus,
specifically. He moved them specifically to his tower because that's the only way to break the curse.
but then why not just afterwards when they turn to stone, move them to a place where the sun is around more?
He had to bring the entire Scottish castle and build it back on top of his skyscraper, which took years, dude.
Pretty sure you could do it in Ecuador for cheaper.
And in the no, because here's in the curse's own words, when the castle floats above the clouds, shall they awaken once more. And you're really going to tell me that going all the way to the cloud rainforests, violating entire conservation lands, fighting with an entire foreign government, to put a legacy castle on top of a cliff, which may be geologically unstable, is the better option.
How do you get to do this in 80s New York, though?
Because he's that rich. Also, rule of coal. You want the do you want gargoyles going through the rainforest, or do you want them to go in the city?
Rainforest gargoyles sound cool.
Okay, now you're just being stubborn. I'm moving on.
I am, but
Basically, the concept is he needed to break the curse, and that was like the cheapest way to do it because New York also has this thing called fog, which I guess cheats it, and smog.
uh,
Smog.
also look at that deviant art thumbnail.
Literally from DeviantArt.
I'm
So
gonna
kudos
see
to
if it's
the
still
artist
around.
here.
What's the?
Artist White Winged at DeviantArt.com. Also, you can tell it's dated because the dude has an AOL account. So this is the second edition of the book, by the way. When I first wrote these rules more than 2 years ago, it was something of a creative outlet for an obsessive fan of a fantastic TV series. The look and feel of Gargoyles, with a few modifications, fits perfectly into White Wolf's world of darkness. And I could actually believe it. I think it works relatively well. The original rules went through several revisions before I was satisfied with their playability and quality. Thankfully, I had these two people's excellent Highlanders The Gathering supplement as a model. My friends have all begun to dread whenever I say the word gargoyles now, and they believe I'm something of a nut. It is perhaps a sad fact that I have put more thought into this work than I have put into some of my own professional projects. Anyone who has read my stuff will likely agree. These rules are mostly unchanged from the previous edition, but there are some additions. I have attempted to clear up the many questions I received about legendary potential. I have expanded upon the monstrosity endowment, and I have included character sheets and some of the major characters from the series. I hope you enjoy playing this as much as I enjoyed creating it. Also, finally, I would like to extend my thanks to Disney for convincing us that maturely written animation does not only have to come across the Pacific. Oh, that's very painful
Oh,
nowadays.
oh.
Ooh, did not age well. Not at all. Like this is 90s gritty cartoon. No. Oh, no, 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 no. If you want gritty, you have to learn about the animators behind the projects now, rather than watching the projects themselves. Woo! So the prelude is the wrong side of dusk. It's a standard White Wolf setup, which kind of gives you an idea on how this would go. So let's skip this because we usually do with White Wolf. Chapter 1, Introduction. 1,000 years ago, superstition and the sword ruled. So these rules are based on the Disney cartoon Gargoyles and White Wolf role-playing games. Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Maids the Ascension, blah blah blah. Appearance
Well,
Gar.
no, actually, something. If that's the case, this is really fucking old because they ain't even referencing Hunter or Demon yet. Or
That's because Hunter never had its own splats until I think it had its own book until the Reckoning.
actually,
And
technically,
Demon
Hunter
was
the Vigil
such a
ripped this
wet.
off.
Also, no, it's not that old because it mentions Wraith the Oblivion. You know, the one that got canceled really early on.
Also because, but also the one that created one of the best books,
He's
the one
mentioning the
about the
ones people give a
Holocaust.
shit about. No one cares about Hunter the Reckoning because there's Hunter the Vigil. No one cares about the Demon book. There's people who claim they do, but they never got to play it because no one else does. Keep rubbing salt in that wound. I'm surprised they mentioned Changeling the Dreaming, to be honest, for the same reason.
I'm pretty sure they were covering all their bases.
Probably. So the appearance, gargoyles are monsters. That's the simple truth. They are inhuman, fearsome, and often hideous. The concept of a typical gargoyle is completely useless. No two gargoyles look alike, and the variations in size, color, shape, and features are too wide to record. Some of those most familiar to Western European legends appear mammalian, bipedal, and winged with a uniform skin color. At night, they are nearly unstoppable, strong, tough, and able to glide in and out of danger. But in daylight, they are as helpless as newborn babes, unable to even perceive if they are in peril. Oh, hey, Jim. Welcome to the Gargoyles book. A dude spent years working on a gargoyle supplement for the World of Darkness. So some features seem to be more common than others. Wings generally are bat-like, although there are variations. Their stature, which can go up to 9 feet tall. Limbs are well-muscled and lean, the horns, teeth, and claws. Capable of rending even a werewolf to pieces, which, we might get a bit of power creep here. We might.
There were werewolves or something like that in the show.
Yes, because they've dealt with a lot of supernatural creatures and super science. They've also dealt with Fae more than once. There's an entire arc where they have to deal with Avalon. Biology. Gargoyles are an ancient race that has existed alongside mankind since the beginning of time. It is speculated by some that they were the children of Lilith, by others that they were the product of magical breeding experiments. They often refer to themselves as the first race, with humanity being the third, and the Fairy, or children of Oberon, as the third. They do not count vampires as a separate race at all, merely a disease among men. And werewolves are believed by most gargoyles to be victims of a curse, much like the legends of humans. While usually mammalian in appearance and mating habits, gargoyles hatch from eggs. Blah blah blah. Hatchlings grow in age at a rate roughly half that of human, thus a gargoyle can be 30 years old and still be an adolescent. Non-sentient gargoyles grow at an analogous rate, roughly half of whatever animal they most resemble. The average lifespan of a healthy sentient gargoyle is about 140 years. The rising of the sun turns gargoyles into solid stone for a day, and at sunset it's reversed. Some theories suppose that while stone, a gargoyle stores up solar energy in special organs that convert it into the energy required to carry itself aloft. Another feature of gargoyles are their eyes glow when they are angered. With a few exceptions, males' eyes glow white while females glow red, because this is referencing the show. No one is certain of either the cause or significance. The clan. Gargoyle culture is unusual by human standards. Being almost completely community-oriented, individual gargoyles have no names unless they have been in contact with humans or others and encouraged to take names. Separate identity, while not a foreign concept, is more determined by what one has done than by what your parents are. The most important things to any I wonder what all of you think of the fan game that brings Exalted into the modern Knights. I'm not a big Exalted fan. I don't really have a lot of interest in it as a splat personally.
It, I'd have to know more about Exalted, yeah, beforehand.
I just don't have a lot of interest personally.
But it seems like, I mean, the only thing that could defeat it would be an actual demon
It's a
or a
combination of
mummy
how
from
overpowered they are, and
New World.
yeah, it's a combination of how overpowered they are, and just I find them very boring. The most important things to any gargoyle in order of importance is the clan, the castle, and the rookery. Clan's the extended family, and basically, sometimes a non-gargoyle can be welcomed to the clan, but this is very rare. It's seen as a sign of trust and respect. Regardless of their origin or species, all clan members are afforded equal status, and any of them will defend any other to the death. Sometimes a clan member may be guilty of a transgression against the laws of another group or society. If they feel the laws violated are honorable, they will desire to see the guilty punished. However, they will still defend their companions. Gargoyles have to answer to gargoyle justice, which can be just as compassionate as any other societies, or as brutal. The castle is the gargoyle's home, and the rookery is where the clan's eggs are stored. Non-sentient members of a clan are no less members despite their lack of speech and apparent intelligence. They are given duties and affection just as much as the sentient ones. And history. When gargoyles
Again,
first encountered humanity...
just basing it off of the show.
Oh yeah. When gargoyles first encountered humanity, they were feared and hated as demons. This was not helped by the fact that many gargoyle clans set their roosts in the very cliffs and hills that warlike humans found so defensible. Eventually, however, they reached something of a compromise. Humans would build castles, monasteries, citadels, and keeps, and gargoyles were allowed to stay, providing an extra layer of defense at night and intriguing statuary in the day. This partnership was a doomed one, however, and all mankind over the world eventually destroyed or drove out all the gargoyles. No one is sure of where, when, or why the betrayal started. Sometimes it was manipulation from behind the scenes. Humans began to hunt them, guided by undead hands, perhaps, frustrated at the level of protection monsters afforded them. Pawns of vampires might have led nations, armies, or even the church into pogroms. The technocracy, perhaps, in those ancient days, had their dupes placed throughout society. Some of them, believing themselves to be the true hands, styled themselves as the Illuminati. The Illuminati ran afoul of several clans of gargoyle over the century, and have turned their machinations to eradicate their threat. The Garou and other shape-changers often aided gargoyles against their foes out of a similar sense of honor. This was always a short-lived alliance, however, because the werewolves' stated goals offended the sensibilities of the gargoyles. So yeah, gargoyles would completely and absolutely kink shame and destroy the living shit out of the Red Talons. Good to know. Good to know.
Yay.
Well, no, that's a good thing because by 5th edition, the Red Talons are legitimately just black spiral dancers for Gaia, including having AIDS dogs. Spreading disease like some form of agent of the worm. But you're totally fighting it, am I right, guys? Saddest of
Also,
all. Oh, sorry.
I was saying also they could be humans now for some fucking reason.
Even though they reject it for a reason. To the point where you actually, I believe they had a kill on sight order for all human based Red Talons. Or you had to go to the Bone Gnawers if they were feeling particularly kind. Yeah, I just don't like nothing about Exalted particularly interests me. No offense, I just there's something about it. It's just kind of might be why I'm also
Interesting
not a big fan of
setting,
Hunter the Reckoning.
like interesting setting, very weird and definitely worth a read, but
Man, I just want to play. I just want to
I
play a.
would need to
I
learn
just
more
want to
about.
play a Zamichi face man, literal face man, as in I change my face man. So, saddest of all was the devastation visited upon them by their own kind. No one knows why, but at the same time that the clans were facing besiegements from without, some gargoyles, a few in each clan, betrayed them from within. Handfuls are all that survived, many by retreating to the highest mountains and others by making timely alliance with the Fae, who allowed some of them in refuge in their homelands under the hills. The last bastion of gargoyle civilization was destroyed in 1057 in Scotland, when betrayal on both sides played the end of an era. Most humans have forgotten those days, and the forces of the Inquisition and the technocracy have done their best to stamp out the beliefs and knowledge of anything that can threaten them. The masquerade of the vampires also had a part in the disbelief of gargoyles, because overzealous kindred, often discovering mention of them, thought they referred to the Tremere creations and destroyed or altered or secreted it away. Now, 1,000 years
Yeah,
after their heyday, hmm,
yeah, that's right. The Trimmer did make gargoyles.
they did. So it's not surprising. I actually kind of like that little nod. There's at least some effort here. Now let's forget about World of Darkness 5th. It adds nothing of worth. Oh, come on. It supports the BOPE, the violent psychotic group of Brazilian officers who have a shoot on sight policy.
I don't know, no, 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 that was them like blaming them for vampires.
They also invented thin blood alchemy, which is one of the few things that can instantly raise my blood pressure 20 points. I'm actually squirting blood out my eyes like a horny toad right now. It's getting all over the monitor, which is very unfortunate. But yeah, now 1,000 years after their heyday, gargoyles are making a comeback. Some out of an enforced period of hibernation brought on by mages or fairy. A few are coming out of hiding after centuries of isolation. And some are just now returning to Earth from the fairy realms after being granted sanctuary there. The world has changed greatly in their absence, and their numbers have been sorely depleted. Now most seek to reforge the partnership they once shared with mankind, without reawakening the ancient fears and prejudices that plagued them so long ago.
Hmm.
I actually think they handled the little lore well. I mean, it's still kind of jank because you're kind of shoving this in, but
It's shoved in,
I think you can
but in
make
a
it
way
work for. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
that's interesting. Like I'd actually be interested to see the gargoyles like I don't know, like the goons of a changeling,
Yeah, you could see something like that.
like hired help.
You could also easily use them in Chronicles of Darkness if you wish,
Oh yeah.
which I think would actually be a pretty good use for them. So character
So,
creation. The chart is you choose a concept, you prioritize it's the same setup as any World of Darkness.
Yeah. The only difference being you have three advantages: Claws of Living Rock for Forbidden Glare, Frightening Laugh, and Howl of Alarm and Swiftness, which you get various endowments.
Hmm.
There's Gargomancy,
It's a type of
which is a
hedge
hedge.
magic practiced by gargoyles. Yeah, they would slot way easier into Chronicles. You'd have to slightly rebalance it. Basically, you'd have to remember that you roll eights to get successes. Ones do not take away failures, which they do in Old World. To be fair, introducing anything into World of Darkness is kind of jank. Yeah, once you get out of revised editions of World of Darkness, you're kind of screwed. I mean, if you're using something as simple as Chicago by Night and like the very early first edition stuff for the World of Darkness, you could easily get away with putting gargoyles in it. But once you get into revised, you're kind of fucked. It works fine though for Chronicles of Darkness. So if you want to do like a Vampire the Requiem game and you want to throw Goliath at them, unironically you could. You could throw in the Gargoyle clan from the Disney movie, from the Disney like made for TV movie or the show easily. Also, Might of Stone. This allows gargoyles to perform even greater feats of strength. They also have monstrosities, which make them hideous, more so. Rawhide, spouting, which allows you to spew harmful substances on your enemies. The unique backgrounds specifically to gargoyles include animal companions, which can include a non-sentient gargoyle. Your clan, obviously, since it's very important. Castle, which it's your home and sanctuary. The rites, which are the rituals that they had, and status. Here are the points which you would have to convert. Like this is another aspect if you're going to convert to Chronicles of Darkness. This is something you'd have to do. Numina, which is something from Hunter's Hunted. Which fun fact, fifth edition Hunter actually stole heavily from Hunter's Hunted, which I think is very funny. The experience chart would also have to be completely reworked. It's not that hard. Chronicles of Darkness is very friendly. You just have to do a bit of studying, and it's pretty easy to convert. Either way, it's not too bad. Like legitimately, it's your standard setup. So chapter 3, traits. So here's some of the options for that.
You could also play as one of the non-sentient gargoyles.
Yes, you can. You can if you want to
Uh,
play what's his name? I think his name is Bronx. You totally can.
and then attributes. You at least start with 2 dots in strength and go as high as 8.
Yeah,
Um,
gargoyles. If you're wondering, they're supposed to be stronger than humans. So it's similar to how Nosferatu traditionally could never get anything above a 0 in appearance, unless they're using the illusion abilities they can pick up.
um, oh, actually, same thing. Well, uh, gargoyles may never have an appearance above 2 and go as low as 0.
Also, horrendously, note that their stamina and strength can start a starting gargoyle can get as high as 8. You
But
can get 8
there's also
strength and stamina, which is horrifying.
there's also they can not have a manipulation higher than 3. They're very trusting.
Yeah, and also you can never have an appearance above 2 intelligence. They're basically on par with anyone else. However, gargoyle is created with only 1 dot in intelligence, then it may be a non-sentient, which I think is kind of a lie. I think non-sentients shouldn't even have 1. Although, again, Bronx was at least sort of smart. Yeah, rule of 3 with conversion guides. Odds are it would take like 30 minutes more or less. Yeah, you're pretty much right, NDR. It's not too hard to convert. It's not a big deal. So let's see what we got as abilities. You can glide, which, if you're wondering, this is how you can fly around.
Wouldn't that be just innate?
No, not necessarily. Some gargoyles have to learn how to do it, much like birds.
Sculpting.
No,
Like the master. You're Michelangelo, only with wings.
Not bad. Combat gliding,
Uh,
which is what you can use it for for your fighting. Which, yeah, I can
knowledge.
kind of see why gargoyles might be able to 1v1 a werewolf now. The gargoyle with no name has a dexterity of 3, melee weapons of 4, and combat gliding of 2. In aerial fights, you can only roll. Oh, no, no. Combat gliding replaces your melee weapons.
Um,
You take the lowest result. Okay, fair enough. Knowledge of human society, because, yeah, gargoyles are very much isolated from that, especially after the portrayals of the Dark Ages. Night
I'd
lore,
like
because there's other things that go in the
night.
darkness.
There's like night lore.
Oh yeah, basically because gargoyles deal with a lot of things that go bump in the night because that's when they're active. Gargoyles are surprisingly a good font for details about other creatures. So if you're doing like a Chronicles, if you run into a gargoyle, this guy could actually, if you work with them well enough, could tell you about like vampires and stuff. If you want to do a Chronicles
I'm,
of Darkness with these guys in it, you could actually make them a very useful hunter contact.
I'm just imagining one's on top of it. One's waking up and they see like a werewolf next to them. They're just like, "Who the hell are you?" Moving on from my
Rituals.
terrible joke. Um, yeah. So rituals and then technology. You can also tell how dated this was because two dots means you can fix a VCR. Today, I think that actually would be five dots.
You'd be the gargoyle equivalent to Thomas Edison.
So a thief.
So here's all of the advantages you start with. Claws of Living Rock, which they're infused with the gargoyle's inherent magical life force. These guys do aggravated damage casually.
Wow. That's is
These
that
guys
the
are a little overpowered, yeah.
it goes what? Bashing, lethal, then aggravated?
Yeah, aggravated basically takes the longest to heal, as it takes literally, I think, a week for each pip of aggravated. It is one of the only things that can bypass the supernatural defenses of another thing that goes bump in the night. And while this sounds
Um,
horseshit, keep in mind that this is something werewolves innately do.
They got the strength of a werewolf.
Unironically, in a fight between a gargoyle and a werewolf, I don't really know who would win.
Well, because we do have more abilities.
Also, yeah,
We have
Goliath could totally destroy a werewolf. I think an elder might cause him a lot of trouble and might actually win, but then he'd just recover in the dawn and just kick its ass later.
for forbidding glare, which is causing someone to flee on a charisma plus intimidation roll.
Hmm.
Um, frightening laugh, which allows you to freeze a victim in terror. And of course, healing sleep, which um, not the ability to heal wake. Therefore, oh,
Basically,
note that
if they get really fucked up during the night, they will shrug it completely off during the day. The problem
no, no, it says
is
note that
any damage to their statue stays with them.
note that the gargoyles.
That's why one of the most heinous things you could do is bust into a gargoyle castle and break them apart during the day. This is what humans did during the Great Betrayal, by the way.
Yeah, note that the gargoyles do not have the ability to heal while awake. Therefore, all damage is aggravated to them.
Yeah, it's one of their few really big weaknesses. That's
So
the thing. I don't
you
think they're that
you just
bullshittedly
take
static.
aggravated damage,
Yeah, I mean,
no matter.
you're helpless, so you're just going to die.
No, no, the aggravated thing. That's when they're awake.
Gargoyles do not have the
Th-
ability to heal while awake, and therefore all aggravate. Okay. So you can
I
kind
guess
of
that.
understand why these guys, while pretty goddamn terrifying, are not invincible.
Howl of alarm. They can have a, they can shout, which can be heard over several miles.
Which is useful. They're also quite
And
fast. You can spend a willpower point to take 2 actions during a turn, which is
okay.
actually similar to low-level celerity.
And the endowments.
Gargamancy. This is the most rarest of endowments and it's the special magic of gargoyles. It's very rare. Almost none of them have it. You can do things like scenting. You can track any scent anyone knows very well. Blending. You can take the appearance of stone and will be mistaken for a statue. Sealing. You can seal 2 pieces of stone together so they effectively become one piece. Revealing the flow. You can view and follow the flow of quintessence, gnosis, or even quickening if immortals rules are used. This allows you to tell what type of energy is being used, which means these guys can actually rip apart and analyze what spheres a mage is using. They can also borrow might, which allows them to endow from others. There's lending might, which allows you to give powers. Revisionism. You can carve a feature for a gargoyle out of stone and attach it to its body. At the next sunset, it becomes a part of the feature until sunrise. Sculpting life. You can also animate statues. Oh yeah, it's legitimately a skill check. Here are some successes. The transfer of respite. It allows you to spend legendary potential and roll manipulation and gargamancy to transfer the stone nature onto another non-gargoyle being. This target will be stone during the day, while the gargamancer will be able to move around in daylight. It lasts for one night. The gift of
So you can just.
stone. You can then turn one being into stone forever.
Oh,
And it takes a high power mage to undo this.
life 4, matter 4.
That's
Damn.
scary. That's some scary shit. You have the Might of Stone. To activate, you roll a test of their Might of Stone trait, the difficulty of 6. For each success, add 1 to their effective strength for the remainder of the scene. They can only store enough energy for an hour's exertion. So basically, I'd say save it for like you can only use it once per scene during the day, during the night. You're also a monstrosity, so you can have a variety of horrible features like 2 heads, flaming head, faceless, extra pair of limbs, acid. Like you're a horrifying monster. You could also have no skin.
Acid pores.
Yeah, you sweat acid.
Oh, you can be headless
Yep,
or faceless.
yep. You can also have two
It,
faces.
you can have 2 faces and 2 heads.
Yes.
So wait, wouldn't 2 heads give you the 2 faces trait?
No, because it's not on the same head.
Oh, okay. So
You also
rock
have rock
hide.
hide, which yeah, it allows you to add a dot of stamina. It's the same thing. Then you also have spouting. The stone carvers who first turn their hideous decorations into defensive weapons base the ideas on 2 stories of battles fought against the gargoyles. So when a gargoyle spouts, they must spend a point of legendary potential and roll dexterity to attack. You must ingest the proper substance like water, oil, lead, or rock for a full hour before using it. They do not use it before the sunrise. It's metabolized while they are stone. Also, they do have access to Numina like humans and can spend freebie points on them. See Hunters Hunted or Year of the Hunter supplements for details. Note that if a gargoyle does not begin the game with Numina, they may not buy it later. And also background, these are your clans, basically how large they are. The castle, which is another example, the rights of the gargoyle. Some are social, some are defensive, and they give you examples like here. Rite of dedication. This is similar to the werewolf rite of the same name, except that the items dedicated in this manner change to stone. Calling the clan, welcoming the egg, the rite of recognition, concealing the roost, marking the vandal. Basically, little things you can do,
Look,
like the rite of
this
rending.
one's good. The sleepless day. Spend 2 willpower. Character has the ability to function in the day as a human would. It cannot be used on consecutive days, though.
hmm Gargoyles also do not really have a stratified society, so they have a clan leader and a second in command and advisors. Everyone else is treated equally. However, sometimes gargoyles do stand out even among their clan. to give you an idea, if you have 5 dots in this status, you're almost certainly the clan leader. Also, all gargoyles begin the game with 3 dots of willpower. This can be increased by spending freebie points. And they also have what are known as legendary potential. While Tales and Legend are a large part of many people's lives, the gargoyles' lives are a part of Legend. Most of them have no care for this, while a few actually hold secret pride over their status. This legendary potential is what causes epics. When something happens to a gargoyle, this potential makes it more dramatic than it would be for any other beings. Legendary potential of a gargoyle is what allows them to perform feats beyond the ken of mortals. Being part of the collective psyche, legend can affect reality in some ways in the same way mages can to a degree. While the imaginations of hundreds of thousands of mortals are turned to the same thing, it can cause reality to change. Basically, gargoyles, they can kind of tap into the same thing mages can to a much lesser degree, but it allows them to get a little bit more. Yeah, so a complaint from Squirrel Killer is having dyslexia, having all this over an image that's monochrome is very difficult.
Oh yeah,
I really don't
yeah.
know why this guy kept using the same background image. I like every other World of Darkness book didn't do this. I'm not a fan of that. It's not a big negative for me, but yeah, this is not very well. It's just a minor nitpick. So legendary's potential is spent in order to empower the various endowments, rights, or numina a gargoyle might have. Legendary potential can be regained through legendary deeds. So if you do something that's beyond the ability of a mortal, or if they perform an action of considerable valor of hero or heroism, they can attempt to regain potential. There has to at least be one witness to the deed, though. And if the character has at least
Hmm.
a success, they gain a point of legendary potential back. You can never gain back more than their permanent score. So, what are the merits and flaws? You get Berserker, the clan mentality, compulsion. A lot of these are from the same. The only ones that are different are ones they write descriptions for. So, for example, they can do Berserker, which is a merit. You have the ability to put yourself in outrage. You have clan mentality, which is a flaw. Basically, you follow orders to the letter, and you don't really have much of an opinion yourself. Hidebound, short fuse. You can also have Calm Heart, which is the ability to resist outrage, which is their kind of equivalent of Rot Shrek slash Frenzy. Infrared Vision. Shattering Roar, which allows you to shatter stone. Human Society, you can have the
Hunt.
Hunted flaw.
Yeah. There's a particular relentless gargoyle hunter after you. These hunters could be members of the Inquisition, Technocracy, the Illuminati, even the dreaded ageless hunter, Macbeth himself.
And that's an actual
Is that?
character from the show, yes. Basically, due to the dark dealings Macbeth did and his desire to hunt gargoyles out of a personal vendetta, he is cursed with immortality.
This is the same Macbeth from the play?
Yes.
He dies at the end.
Basically, he is also his life force is bound to another gargoyle named Demona. When one
Oh,
dies, the other goes with them, and they are cursed to be alive forever.
so he just wants to kill her, basically.
Yes, he wants to basically wipe out all gargoyle kind.
Doesn't he just have to kill the one, though?
No.
That sucks.
Some other ones
Um,
include attached wings, beaks, double jointed fang, blah blah blah. These are all things you can get. And then there's an interlude, which is another scenario. Well, not another scenario. It's a little bit more lore. And here's some of the
I think
rules. Hmm?
this is with uh like characters from the show, or
Oh, the character quotes are all from the show. Yes,
yeah, no, but it's like the character after like Shriek. Is that
I
no,
think
no, I'm
might be a minor character.
either that or
It might be a
no, it's
minor
something about
character, or they could
vampires.
be made up. Yeah.
I think this is made up.
So outrage. This rule is similar to frenzies, to the frenzies of vampires or werewolves. However, gargoyles do not go into this berserk state for the same reasons. Gargoyles have a strict sense of morality, so when someone does something offends a gargoyle's sense of moral outrage, they have to roll willpower with a difficulty determined by the outrage. One success is all that's required to resist it. The offenses include cheating, torture, corruption of nature, murder, betrayal, or manipulating an innocent into performing an aberrant act. Basically, they have a strong sense of morality, so this sort of stuff will enrage them. When
Oh,
in
thank goodness they're
outrage,
not in a thank goodness they're not in a horrible setting like World of Darkness.
while in a state of outrage, gargoyles ignore wound penalties from damage. They also cannot use any weapons or special brawling maneuvers. They have to attack until the object of the outrage is down, dead, gone, or out of range. Unlike other frenzies, the gargoyle's outrage will not cause them to attack a friend unless the offense was betrayal. And yeah, combat's pretty much the same. They just give you some options for other things, and here they are. You can also glide, which gives you some ideas on difficulties for. And gargoyles of the World of Darkness. These are just minor characters that they add. Outlooks. Gargoyles in this gritty, horror-filled world have many enemies and precious few friends. But this will never dissuade them from their purpose, to protect. Gargoyles protect. They can't tell you why, they just do. Many other denizens of the World of Darkness may feel that attitude to be naive or even dangerous and will oppose them. Gargoyles will be the first to tell you that an entire people or species cannot be evil. They have their own monstrous appearance to remind them of that every night. Because of this belief, they're not quick to judge and prefer to make their own decisions as to whom their enemies shall be. The following are general opinions held by most gargoyles regarding the other inhabitants. For vampires, the parasites are a stain on the earth, but it is not our place to cleanse them.
By the
See,
way, I thought they're supposed to be protecting.
well, that's the
Wouldn't
thing. They protect humans, so they'll stop a vampire from drinking them, but they're not obsessed with wiping them out. Because remember, they also see vampires as humans, but sick with a
and I mean
spiritual
also probably
disease.
you don't have to really worry about them if you're staying around a church. True faith and all.
Also, yeah, vampires can drink the vitae from a gargoyle, but it is not worth it.
Zero levels of aggregate damage for each dot. Ooh.
Also, I like,
Oh, and it turns to stone in his body. Oh,
yup.
that's gonna you're gonna have to now rip your limbs out,
hmm
I'm assuming.
If you're wondering, gargoyles do dislike vampires a lot because of their parasitic nature and how they usually abuse people and how they usually are very dishonorable. But they will often try to reason because, again, they also see them as ill humans. Vampires really don't like them, obviously. We share much with the shifters, and we would be great friends if they would let us, but we will not allow them to slaughter innocents, no matter their reasoning. So, in this world, the Guru and Gargoyles did once share a bond of alliance. Some bond of alliance. By the modern era, Glasswalkers and Bonars are essentially the only ones that even remotely see a benefit with continuing to work with them. These alliances are
If
very
rarely.
short-lived, however, because, again, they have different ideas on what they need to do. Also, let's be fair, werewolves and gargoyles probably went to war a lot because of the humans.
Yeah.
Their core,
Actually, that'd
their
be
core,
great
their
for
core
a
reasoning
Dark
is,
Age setting.
oh yeah, their core reasoning is the same. They want to protect. It's just werewolves are soldiers of Gaia first, and humans can be seen as a blight upon the world, or as agents of the worm. Also, gargoyles, they're very much in the moment. They care more for the person of the now than the future that will be. So gargoyles don't care about climate change. As for mages, their manipulations and mind games are making us tired, and the day shall come when we will not turn away from the fight they offer us. Mages and gargoyles have a very storied history, and it's even as early as in the first episode of the show. The gargoyles were cursed by a mage to stay stone. And the thing is, because of how mages usually handled them, gargoyles don't trust them as far as they can throw them. Because you know how mages can use magic to just artificially increase their weight or make the gargoyle unable to throw them.
And they said the technocracy would they perceive them as the threat to the ideal paradigm. Progenitors would like to get a hold of them to use lab specimens. Um, Interesting enough, gargoyles still hidden in umbral pockets are faced with the threat of the void engineers, um, which brings the hilarious idea of let's say this: you void engineers they land on an asteroid, and then they find within it sort of a hollowed out, I guess, castle for the gargoyles. Reason being because the way that they're facing, they never face the sun. So
Also, if you're wondering, the technocracy would also hate them because not only do they threaten the paradigm that they wish to seek, which is controllable, repeatable magic, magic enhanced so that all can use it at a safe and controlled level, they also kind of tap from the same source. Remember, they both use quintessence somewhat. Gargoyles for legendary prowess, so they might not be a fan of that either. Your
the
traditions
gargoyles
usually
into a
are much
lawn
more
chair.
okay with them, though. Oh yes, and yeah, Sublime Mime is correct. You can turn them into you can turn the gargoyle into a lawn chair.
What was the dots you needed for that one?
Uh, I forget. I don't know the spheres, but if you have the right spheres, you can do anything. Like to give you an idea, you could have the spheres convince a gargoyle to invest all of their liquidity, all of their land properties in their castle to NFTs, and then go bankrupt.
Okay, now I got the idea of otters from that one South Park special as a mage for the Syndicate.
Yeah, I could definitely see vampires striking deals with a gargoyle clan as long as they don't cause too much trouble. Because again, the whole thing is gargoyle. They mentioned it before. They see vampires not as their own not as a different strain of humanity, not as the Walking Dead, but those afflicted with a curse. So yeah, I could see that, especially since they're not the keenest at not being manipulated. They're kind of gullible. But yeah, the tradition mages tend to be pretty okay with gargoyles just because they're kind of an echo of an older era back when magic was grander, so to speak. Back when people actually believed in mysticism, back when their magic was easier to perform, back when the paradigm was more in their favor. Wraiths, these tortured souls deserve our sympathy and shall receive it. No matter their crimes in life, they've suffered enough. So, gargoyles don't really deal a lot with the dead, but every now and again it happens, especially since they usually use abandoned buildings as their castles. Uh, in this case, they try to at least help the Wraith move on. Also, they are easy victims to skin riders, which is not good.
Riders are what are they again?
Uh, they're the ghosts that possess. Basically, these guys can possess a gargoyle and use their bodies to do a lot of damage before being put down.
Hearing now, I want to see a version of this for Chronicles. Honestly, for that, I would say same thing, but uh, no, literally just the same thing.
Yeah, you
Uh,
can you can use a
Probably
lot of this because like they
you could lean
consider
closer to
themselves the
the
first race, which means that they might be around the same time as they might be like the original like sapient race or like something else. Like basically, what's their origins? It's shrouded in mystery.
Ooh, wait, no, I got an idea. Progenitors of the Prometheans.
Possibly. As for changelings, we owe more than we can ever repay to the children of Oberon. We only pray that they'll forgive us someday. Quite a few clans only survived due to the Fae, and the sanctuary granted to them in the lands under the hill. The problem is that this kind of caused tension because the gargoyles were able to get back when Avalon's before Avalon's gate shattered irreparably. You know, the connection to the fantasy land being gone. And there's a lot of enmity among the fair folk about that. Oh yeah, the Outlook updated to the Chronicle splats. That could be interesting. So as for
I can't wait
foes,
to see them.
hmm,
Sorry, I can't wait to see them kick the shit out of the what's the one made by the guy who was a rapist?
beasts.
Yeah, I can't wait to see them kick the shit out of beasts.
Oh, they would. They would enter outrage and just rip them apart with their 8 strength and 8 vitality. They would just you would see them flip shit the moment they do something horrible and just destroy them. Because unlike the others, I would actually argue that they would hate beasts the most because they're the most hateful of the lot. Convince the gargoyles that a masquerade breach is a danger to humanity in and of itself, so they might agree that calling those who know too much is a form of protecting immortals. Again, gargoyles are
Oh,
pretty gullible. Their manipulation can really only go up to 3 because they're very simple-minded and direct, relatively speaking, and very honorable. So a canny vampire could easily argue this. Like a prince of the city might even actually have them. A really cunning trick might be that the prince of a city might actually have a gargoyle as their sheriff, as the lawman,
hmm.
at least for a brief period of time. That
Probably
could be a
because you
very
could
fun. That could be fun.
honestly be probably because you could he could be shaped to look more like vampire. And I mean, are they gonna argue with him?
So, as for foes, the 20th century is not a good time for gargoyles. In fact, it's actually dangerous for most unnatural beings. Improvements in technology coupled with high population density makes it much harder to remain hidden. Unlike the masquerade of the vampires, the veil of the werewolves, the glamour of the fairy, or even the arcane of the mages, gargoyles lack the mechanism or tradition to keep themselves out of public eye. To remain hidden runs counter to everything they've ever done. How can they protect humanity if they hide from it? Despite disliking subterfuge that most gargoyles share, they understand going public would be disastrous. Any one of their foes would leap on the chance to capture, exploit, or destroy them. And that doesn't even count forces like the Inquisition or Technocracy, who would hunt them down. Xanatos Industries. I'll lose my robots, but then I can afford it. This gargantuan corporation is rivaled only by Pentex in sheer scope of involvement. The two corporate giants rarely do business with each other, because even David Xanatos doesn't want to be immortal on a world that has become unlivable. Companies owned by Xanatos manufacture everything from pharmaceuticals to experimental particle beam weaponry. The level of technology flaunted by Xanatos has led some people who know of such things to believe there must be a substantial number of technocrats or even sons of ether working in the company. The owner and CEO of the company, David Xanatos, is no stranger to the strange. A lower echelon member of the Illuminati, he nevertheless pursues his own peculiar agenda. Obsessed with immortality, he has undertaken several schemes to ensure his own continued existence, as well as most recently that of his wife. To say that he is rich would be an understatement. He has more money than any 3 royal families combined. Xanatos resides in the restored Castle Wyvern, which was transplanted from its native Scotland and rebuilt stone by stone on top of his Manhattan skyscraper. While seen as some as an unforgivably ostentatious display, the installation of the castle was simply one step in a Byzantine plot. It was of a mixed success, which ended with him serving a 6-month sentence on Rikers Island. It's one thing to remember about Xanatos that while on the surface a particular endeavor may have failed, it usually just sets the stage for future projects. While capturing his knight might seem like a victory for his foe, it's what he was leading them to, his mind being 8 moves ahead in this chess game. He can be made to see reason, but only if it benefits him. An enterprising and violent gargoyle may take it upon himself to kill Xanatos once and for all, and that's not a problem. In In fact, they might even succeed, or at least they'll look like they've succeeded.
Next up is Genutech. This is a uh, biotech or bioengineering firm owned by Xanatos Enterprises, concerned mostly with the design and manufacture of various microbes for industrial use. More public products are often producing monies to fund some more esoteric research. The head of Genutech, Dr. Anton Severius, is involved in the design of the ultimate soldier for Xanatos. He's trying to get the attention of the progenitors for some time, hoping they'll let him in. Um, he hasn't yet realized, however, that by allowing his creations to escape and make headlines, he has very likely shot his chances of getting noticed in a good way. But they have noticed. While he originally planned to clone the Gargoyle Goliath, this turned out to be a disaster. Another project was to produce the Mutates, a group of once human test subjects who have had the DNA of bats, electric eels, and various mammalian predators combined with their own. Originally intended as replacements for the clone army, they have since rebelled and are hiding in an abandoned subway tunnel. Uh, Severius and Genutech are still going strong, despite numerous police investigations and Severius' apparent death.
If you're wondering, Genutech is a recurring antagonist as well in the show. The pack. Here they
Uh,
are, four heroes always ready to take on the threat of the evil ninja. The pack were originally mercenaries gathered from all over the world and hired on as performers for popular children's shows The Pack. They worked out of Pack Media Studios, an outfit by, you guessed it, Xanatos Enterprises. Of all the pack, only Fox, their leader, knew who their employer was, or even what their purpose was. In addition to the show, the pack also acted as special operatives of their own employer. A series of botched missions landed all but one of the pack in jail, and things began to change. Joining the original members Fox, Wolf, Jackal, Hyena, and Dingo was an android built by the techno mages at XE. The android looked like David Xanatos and answered to the name Coyote. Since the event, the pack has been completely redesigned. Fox has left, preferring the legitimate lifestyle of Mrs. David Xanatos to that of an outlaw mercenary. Dingo has also left, answering the call of his conscience and becoming something of a vigilante in his native Australia. The brother and sister team of Jackal and Hyena both understand extensive cybernetic augmentation and are no longer recognizable as human. Jackal took this step farther and bonded himself with Celestine Anubis. I think Celestine's an exalted thing, actually. So yeah, you got a bit of exalted in here. His fate is still uncertain. Wolf underwent a transformation as well, courtesy of Genutech. He now resembles a werewolf in Krynos form, with the exception that he cannot change back. Coyote has been through at least 3 tech upgrades, each one being stronger and less humanoid than the last. All of them are extremely dangerous, and most have a particular dislike for Manhattan's gargoyles. By proxy, all gargoyles. The Illuminati.
Illuminati is an all-knowing, all-seeing conspiracy with ancient origins and ineffable goals. However, they are dupes. The technocracy formed them for their own ends and allowed them to think that they were autonomous. Technocrats at the highest levels chuckle at this irony. The master manipulators are dancing on the ends of strings even they don't see. They count amongst members government agents, police, industrialists, hedge mages, psychics, and even a few real mages, although they don't know this. They can be counted to be embroiled in some hideous plot or at any time. Uh, However, most often these plots will be the secondary goals of the technocracy. Oh, Celestines are a type of spirit in werewolf.
Ah,
So he's a cyborg.
he's a cyborg possessed by a spirit, yes.
All right.
And then there's Demona. Demona was once a trusted member of Castle Wyvern. In fact, she was second in command and mate to their leader Goliath. Believing humanity to be untrustworthy and dangerous, she betrayed the lords of her castle with the aid of another human. Thinking to rid herself forever of human masters, allowing the clan to live in peace ever after, she told no one of her plans. Circumstances and guilt conspired to make her absent when the fateful attack came. The massacre at Castle Wyvern was horrible. Hundreds of gargoyles were shattered while they slept by the hammers and maces of the invading Vikings. Seeing the carnage, the female gargoyle flew into a rage, blaming the humans for the death of her clan. More than 30 years later, she had gathered together a ragtag band of surviving gargoyles and was leading them as a bandit chieftain. It was during this time that she met Macbeth and entered into a mutual defense pact with them, allied against Macbeth's cousin, King Duncan. As a part of the bargain with the Weird Sisters, an enigmatic trio of Umbrut exchanged Macbeth's youth and vitality for some of her unnatural strength. As a part of the spell, both were rendered immortal until one destroys the other. Demona later betrayed Macbeth as well, all the while shifting the blame once again to the untrustworthy humans. Once again finding herself clanless, she has since devoted her life to eventually wiping out mankind. However, she knows that direct attacks will simply cause her to be hunted down, so she bides her time and plots revenge on an epic scale. During one of these plots, she ran afoul of Puck, the fairy trickster. As a gift, Puck granted her the ability to remain awake during the day, as a human woman. The threat she poses to the gargoyles outside of Manhattan is a subtle one. She will attempt to manipulate them into joining her in her pogrom against humanity. If her new recruits are unwilling to be swayed, they instantly become part of the pogrom and targets. And here's Macbeth.
Uh,
Hmm?
uh, Macbeth is a sad tale. Torn from his loved ones by Damona's betrayal, he vowed her destruction. Taking up the mantle of the Hunter, he has pursued her through the centuries, leaping upon any reported gargoyle sighting, hoping to get a lead on her. He does not actually hate gargoyles, but often finds that they get in his way. He'd rather be allies, but his pride will not allow him to approach them in peace. Bad as was, Demona is now legally his wife.
Yes, this is a thing.
Macbeth, Macbeth's only hope for peace is to kill Demona, thus ending himself as well.
Hey, it's Thalog. That's reverse Goliath. That's the clone.
Ah,
You mean that
uh,
creature's still out there? He's got all the money. He's as powerful as Goliath, and he's smarter than you. Oh, and I think I've created a monster.
it says Thalog was the results of Dr. Severius's cloning experiments, grown from Goliath's DNA, speed grown in Genutech's labs, and educated by a sleep teach program designed by Xanatos. He developed a twisted hatred for all three of his fathers. Uh, Using Xanatos' resources, he embezzled $20 million and sold himself up as a reclusive Parisian businessman. Thalog wishes only to live well, be left alone, and get richer. He'll like kill any man or gargoyle who tries to stop him.
Yep. And here's the Gargoyles character sheet. So if you want to make a Gargoyle the Vigil, here's the sheet. It is a two-pager.
And that is it.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think of this one?
I think it's really well done, especially in trying to blend in lore of gargoyles into um, World of Darkness. Quite honestly, in a way that I'd say it fits. I do agree that yeah, they need to change the background. That is not readable at all.
The two biggest faults I'll grant it are that the background makes it much more difficult to read, and I would say that another problem I'd probably grant it is that I'd say it doesn't quite succeed in integrating the lore correctly, but that's not hard. That's understandable. The World of Darkness is a very cluttered mess. In fact, that's actually why I do understand why 5th edition constantly goes back to 1st edition for inspiration. They're trying to simplify the system, simplify the lore, simplify everything. Because once you have so much legacy on hand, it kind of becomes massively unfriendly to new players. And on top of that, it becomes kind of a clusterfuck because sometimes they'll introduce things that get opposed by other things. Fuck you, Secrets of the Black Hand. Fuck you for turning the Zimichi into parasitic space entities. Fuck you. But
I do the Warhammer route where none of it's actually in any canon.
yeah, it's a neat template. It's a little bit simple. I I would actually rate this one as a decent. Like it's a solid decent. To the point where unironically, I think it would actually be fun to do a Gargoyle Chronicle. I think that would actually be pretty fun.
Yeah, and I think though actually, yeah, if you rework this for Chronicles, it probably would work better.
If this guy ever wrote a 3rd edition of Gargoyle the Vigil, well, he'd have to change it because if he wrote it for Chronicles of Darkness, like if he made a 3rd
Yeah,
edition just for that, I would say and upgraded the background so it doesn't cause eye bleed. It's not that it's a bad picture. White Winged did a pretty good little piece of art. It's just it makes it really hard to read the text. I would say you could easily turn this into a really pretty good fan splat. I'm actually very happy with how this one came out. So, hey, what'd you think of the slop folder selection that I picked tonight?
Honestly, very fun. I'd say it really does show that if you put your mind to it, you can create your own RPG, um, of varying levels of technicality, but nevertheless, you know, it's
Yeah, I mean,
it's anyone's
we
game.
saw the three different levels of elaboration. We saw with gummy bears the simplest thing you can make, which is a little 10-page booklet, which works well for a one-off or for a series of one-offs. We showed you the Master of Orion one. That's clunky, but it's still perfectly serviceable. I would say give it a bit more polish, and you can make it as fine little booklet. And then you got this Gargoyles one, which I'm actually am proud to say I would happily run it as a Chronicles of Darkness module. Require a little
And
bit
I
of
would say,
fiddling, but yeah, it's definitely something I could easily see people playing.
and you can tell that there is some, say, passion, interest. It's made by a person who is a fan of not only the game, but also the series they're using it from.
I'd actually say I'd probably like it a bit more than some of the other well-known fan splats like Genius the Transgression or Princess the Hopeful. But that I think it's because it kind of knows what it is, so it comes in and it finishes up pretty quick.
Yeah,
There was another good one that was like you play as giants, if I recall correctly, or as Nephilim.
I, I think
Yeah, it was
I think
Nephilim.
the
You played
difference
fallen
is
angels, which was pretty well done too.
I think the difference is in those splats they're kind of taking a bunch of different myths together. In this case, they're just taking from the TV show.
Which I think allows it to be a lot more compact and a lot more effective. I would also say it is a good thing I'd say that they didn't try to turn it into a full World of Darkness splat, so you don't have a bunch of gargoyle clans because there in the gargoyle show you could have gotten away with putting a couple of different branches, like you have different types of gargoyles that you could have done. I'm kind of glad they didn't do that. They just kind of had them all be your own build a monster sort of thing. I think that's probably a better decision.
Yeah, they basically seem to have made it. Yeah, just make your character set them in the Gargoyles TV show, honestly, in the same setting.
Gargoyles the Stewardship. That's a good one. I actually like that one, Squirrel
Oh
Killer.
yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, if someone makes a third edition of this, unironically, I think that would be a really good Chronicles of Darkness splat. It would really work well because of its toolkit setting. In terms of its origins, you could even have it be that like as long as humanity, the first time human created, that's when gargoyles came from.
Oh
Because
no, no,
because
I
they're
got.
the concept of humans' legends or like their art coming to life.
They're guardian angels,
They are
like in the
guardians
literal
angels
sense.
that are bound to the stone that they were came from. They were born to protect even before mankind truly was.
And yet the thing is that in order to protect, you have to be appearing strong, powerful, monstrous,
Well,
to the point
they were
where,
built to protect, which means that's
eh,
why they're so big, bulky, and scary looking. They are built to protect.
wait a minute, they're robots. Like some ancient robots. That's why they're more trustworthy, they're more kind of narrow-minded and solely focused on one thing. They're some sort of programmed creature.
I mean, unironically, if you told me they were a strain, you could actually do a multiple choice background. They call themselves the first race because they came from the god machine back before humans first were. They were the proto daemons. That's one example you could do. The other could be they are actually a specific creation of Irem or Atlantis. They were built to protect humanity during the golden age during the golden age. This long, during the city that was, will be, never was, or during the time of Atlantis when the mages were at their peak before the Exarchs did their thing. The other is they are the first race to actually wander the Earth back when it was blurred together in Pangaea. They are the ones that stayed upon Earth. They are the race of stone, as the Iratha would call them. You can do that, where you like have them start with a multiple choice. Like you don't know which one. It's just they call themselves the first because humanity and the Fae are the second and third. The Fae coming from the dreams and nightmares of man, so to speak.
And they, ooh, and they actually have an antagonism against the Fae,
Well,
beasts,
they
those
they
kinds of
they,
creatures,
they are
because
kind to changelings, but they despise the fair folk.
no, because they can only protect in the physical world. They cannot protect in the dream world.
I mean, that's if you're changing. I think you're kind of changing away from the show, which is because the gargoyles traditionally did get along relatively well with the Fae.
Yeah.
You could always have it be that their compact broke after the Fae started abducting people and turning them into changelings, though.
Ah.
So they can call it the first betrayal. And maybe that's what the children of Oberon refer to, are the changelings. No, you could easily do this. They almost sound like some sort of mutated Promethean. They are and are not because they are their own living being. They actually could. Oh, actually, that could be a thing.
Yeah.
Because when we did our Night Horrors book, when we showed the different vampires, this could be a variation of a Promethean, one that became its own thing.
I mean that because that could explain why, despite them being they're like made of stone, but of flesh, they, you know, they're kind of this weird
They are called the
creature.
first race because they are extempore. They were made before man was, so there is no understanding of what they lost, and then they became their own thing. They found a different way to gain a true soul rather than Azoth. Yeah, you could do that. You could have them be like the first Prometheans that ever were, and then they became their own thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential with this.
Yeah, they work real well for Chronicles of Darkness because it's such a toolkit setting. Yeah, there's a bit of a meta plot for Chronicles, but it's not heavy. World, it's a lot harder because gargoyles are already in the game. They're a Tremere creation. There's a lot of stuff that they would kind of have to clash about. But I mean, unironically, it actually blends fairly well. I actually really do like how they use the Illuminati as like the pawns of the
Well,
technocracy. I think that's really well done.
you could do this one thing. You could do what Rifts did. You have gargoyles and gargoyles. Yeah. Well, I mean, they also have devils and evils. It, it's even worse than Games Workshop when it comes to that copywriting stuff.
It's pretty bad, yeah. So I've done some thoughts about it, and I think because why not? It's not like the biggest thing in the world. We will have a Festivus special. It will not be on Saturday because no. I'll try to sneak in something funny, something goofy for Christmas Eve. It'll probably be a World of Darkness book since we kind of ended it on a World of Darkness fan book. I think it would work well for a World of Darkness book. Uh, I really don't know what the hell tech's gonna show me on that. It'll hopefully be allowed on you. It will hopefully not be like some of the changeling splats, which get very deviant.
Ooh,
Uh, yeah, changeling has a bit of a reputation for some of the weird shit it prints, which is
wait,
funny
which
because I think
changeling?
changeling the dreaming.
Oh, yeah.
We're
We're not doing
talking.
the satyrs one, I hope.
Well, I mean, there's also the ocean going one, which involves breastfeeding.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. So it's probably not that book. I have no clue. I'll leave it up to him. It'll be a glorious Festivus mystery, and I'll complain at it because that's the tradition. Night, everyone. I think this was a pretty